Now that you're here, we can get started.
Thinking I'm underdressed. This is my summer outfit.
Okay, it looks like we're at 6:30, so we're going to get started. Thank you for being here. Had a meeting with some of our principals. I think I say this every time, but there are good things happening in our district. And we have our issues and we have things we're working, but the good news is we're working on it. We're aware and we're trying to do better. We're looking for solutions. So there's good things happening. So I'm just going to call this meeting to order. We're going to start with the reverence by Karen Cronin, and then we'll have our flag salute and pledge of allegiance by Nancy Kennedy, and then we'll move to our recognitions. Wade Heights to take care of this.
Before I offer the reverence, I would ask that you indulge me in a minute. Flag Day and Independence Day, I feel it's appropriate to recognize the many freedoms, liberties, and blessings we enjoy because of brave men and women who have served and who are now serving in the United States military to this great nation and its freedoms. If there are any here today who have served in one of the branches of the armed forces, will you please stand so we can recognize and express our deep gratitude to you, along with those past and present who have served in the Army, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard, Air Force, National Guard, or Space Force of the United States of America. This way we can honor those who have served or are serving each day and protecting and defending us, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice, is to be the kind of American worth sacrificing and fighting for. May we strive to be a little kinder, a little more valiant, living the values this nation was built on, and strive to be a little better person every day. President S. Truman said, America is not built on fear or ignorance. America is built on truth and courage, on imagination, and on unbeatable determination to do the job at hand. In agreement with that statement, I also recognize the dedicated teachers, administrators, and the entire educational support team for their service they give to the next generation of American military personnel, valiantly teaching them so that our youth can keep the torch of freedom burning bright with a strong foundation of knowledge, imagination, and determination. Gratitude, may we recognize and praise the almighty power that has made and preserved this nation. Father in heaven, we come before thee and give thee thanks for the opportunity that we have to meet as members of this school district and this community. And Father, for the freedoms that we enjoy. For our teachers and administrators and our support staff and all that they do and have done to make this a great year for our students. We're thankful for our community members and their support with their tax dollars to help us so we may be able to educate. We ask that thy spirit will be here with us and help us so we may make wise decisions on behalf of our students and teachers and entire support staff team. We ask that thou will protect this area and help us so we will do those things, Lord. Allow thy blessings to be poured out upon us. And in a special manner, we give thanks for this great nation in which we live. Please protect those men and women who are serving serving our country, making it safe. We say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Will the audience please stand and face the flag? I
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. This is the fun part of the board meeting to recognize individuals. To begin, we have a number of recognitions tonight, so that's a really good thing. We'll begin, is Jeff Rollins here, and Jeff's here, his son, right here. Okay, glad you're here, Jeff. And we'd like to congratulate the Box Elder High School track and field team for winning first place at the region championship. It was great to see all students working together to achieve this success. It was also great to see all track and field participants do amazing in individual events as well. After 17 events, Box Elder High School received an overall score of 247.5 points, securing their first place position. This was outstanding considering second place came in at 116 points. So they were way ahead in first place. Mr. Rollins, thank you for your teaching, support, encouragement you give to all your students. We know that through your leadership, these students were able to achieve this wonderful success. Wishing you and all students very happy. Thank you all. Do you have any of your students here tonight?
Yeah, they're here.
Okay.
Tom Davis.
Oh, Tom. Okay.
Yes, we coach for boys and girls teams.
Okay. Boys and girls.
Yep. So yeah, and all.
Okay.
Wait, can I say something really quick? So I wasn't able to make as many track meets as I would have liked to this year. Actually, only got to a couple, but I liked the runner card. I could always follow the events and the meets, and I was like, I looked faithfully to see where you were, and I was so proud every time I saw those things. And I knew there's some events, like I know Jackson's fast runner, and I'm like, did he get his, what's his grade? Did he get the finals? There's some that I know, so I'm just really proud of this team and the heart. You see hundreds of kids. I mean, like, we have such a great participation. It is a fabulous a sport. I think that so many kids get to participate in. The fast ones and the not so fast ones, everybody feels belonging. So thank you, coaches and students.
Okay, on the recognition, it's also the girls won the state championship as well, so we just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that. So, and I did know that the two coaches back there, one of them's listed as girls and one is boys, but they work together, and that doesn't always happen, and I think it works to the benefit of Box Elder High School to have both these great men, taking the lead. And so, thank you, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Great honor.
We would really like the students and the teachers to come up as well. We'd like to shake your hands. We always do that, and that's a plus. So please come up right now. Okay.
Yeah. Don't be shy.
Come on.
Come on.
We're not scary.
This is a lot easier than all the work you put into this.
You want me to sit down there?
Congratulations. Congratulations. Good job. Congratulations. That's awesome. Congratulations. Good job.
Nice work. Good job. Good job.
Tech guys?
Nice work. Good job.
That's good.
Yeah.
Coaches, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Or are we good?
It's a lot of fun, a lot of great kids. It's crazy at time when 180 to 200 of them show up the first day. I don't want to change it, so more will come, more can come. We're fine with that.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, is Mr. Preston Ritchie here from Fairburn? Oh, Preston, could you stand, please? Here we go. Are any of your students here? The robotics team?
Kurt can go watch on Zoom.
Okay, that's great, that's great. Anyway, we would like to congratulate the Bear River robotics team. This year, there were 5 Bear River high school teams and 2 Bear River middle school teams. In the regular season, they participated in 439 matches against 270 teams from 20 different states and 2 provinces in Canada. Overall this season, Bear River earned 8 Excellence Awards, 12 Tournament Championships, 8 Skills Championships, 3 Lord of the Rings Awards, 2 Design Awards, 1 Innovate Award, and 1 Sportsmanship Award. I don't know what they all mean, but they sound impressive. This past May, there were 5 Bear River robotics teams invited to compete in the BEX Robotics World Championship in Dallas, Texas. In that competition, there were a total of 1,320 teams from 49 states and 40 countries that participated. 5 teams made the divisional playoffs. Bear River advanced to the quarterfinals before being eliminated by the number 2 team in the world. In the skills competition, Bear River was ranked 9th and 19th out of 1,320 teams that competed. At the end of the competition, the Bear River robotics team received 2 trophies for the Sportsmanship Award and the Amazing Award. This is an outstanding accomplishment that all students on the Bear River robotics team should be very proud of. And also, we'd like to give a special thank you to Mr. Preston Ritchie for his skills and support in helping the students reach this incredible success. So let's give them all a big tell them that we will shake their hands virtually. How's that? Okay, is Mr. Kelly Esplin here? Okay, are there any students here from the Bear River High School water polo team? Okay, please stand. All right, super.
That's awesome.
Congratulations to the Bear River High School water polo teams for winning first place in the state competition for boys and 4th place in the state competition for girls. It was great to see all students working together to achieve this success. What a wonderful accomplishment. All Bear River High School students involved in water polo should be proud of this success. It was great to know this year that Bear River High School had the most students on all state teams. This shows how hard and dedicated the students are at Bear River High School. Also, we'd like to thank Mr. Esplin for his teaching support and encouragement for these students and for the great success that he has done to help the students be so successful. So, great job, guys. Come on. Good job.
Congratulations.
So I'm curious, on your water polo team, you guys can answer a question for me. I didn't even know there was a water polo team in Bear River. I'm sorry I didn't know that, but, so how long has this been going that? A long time, so it's been a long time as a thing. I did not know that. Well,
So-
good job.
My son played, a couple of kids from Box Elder went up.
Oh.
So in 2004, I know my boy was, there were a couple of kids that were up there. They didn't win,
Awesome.
but.
It's been a thing
but
at
he
Bear
was
River
great.
since it was actually a thing,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well, way to go. I'm proud of you guys. And I watched, well, I mean, I've seen a little bit of water polo, but that was really hard. So good job.
That is super. Thank you so much.
I need a floaty.
I'm a rock. That's what I know.
Anyway, and I know Jeremy Webb is here. Jeremy, did you stand, please? Jeremy and I go way back. I think I was your first principal, wasn't I, Jeremy? Back in the day.
Give me my opportunity.
Anyway, Jeremy is a great guy. Anyway, we'd like to congratulate the Barrow High School girls lacrosse team for winning first place in the Utah 4A state championship. They capped an undefeated season by defeating Juan Diego Catholic 12-8 at Science Bank Stadium in Carrigan, Utah, May 26, 2022. Last year at the state competition, they lost in the first round, but they left no doubt on how good they were this time. All Barrow High School girls involved in lacrosse should be proud of themselves for not giving up and coming back to achieve this outstanding success. And we want to thank Jeremy, he is their teacher and coach, for his skills, support, and encouragement that you've given to the girls lacrosse team. Congratulations. Are any of those members
Well, they're
here?
actually up at supporting their teammates at a basketball tournament in the lab.
Oh,
Oh.
okay.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Good job.
I have a grandson that plays lacrosse at Corner Canyon High School, and I've gone to a bunch of games and I still don't have a clue what's going on. Other than trying to put the ball in the net and people running in and out all the time, I don't understand what that means. And I also know that I got in a lot of trouble in my life for hitting other kids with sticks, and it's okay in this game. So it's pretty unique. So.
Okay. Now, Melissa Morris. I know Melissa's here. Would you like to stand, Melissa? Because this is a wonderful accomplishment. We would like to congratulate Melissa for being named 2021-22 Utah School Boards Association Rural School Principal of the Year. That is This is an award that is well deserved. As the Bob Silver Board of Education, we have witnessed you your many accomplishments throughout the years. Melissa, you are a perfect example on what a school principal should be. Even though your situation is not an easy one, you do everything you can to make sure that students and teachers are successful. You help everyone to understand this unique situation and make it a positive experience for everyone involved. And I would just like to read the following words that Melissa put on her application. I thought this was just so great. Melissa said, I love being a rural school principal because I'm able to make lasting relationships and truly make a difference that ripples for many generations. I'm able to advocate for the unique needs and ensure that each student and teacher is supported in their unique role, no matter the distance. Melissa, these words sum up what an outstanding principal you are. Congratulations again on the job. Super.
As she comes up to shake hands, I can't help but say a few words. Just to clarify a few things. She's the principal of Grouse Creek. She's the principal of Park Valley and the principal of Snowville. And I hope, if she hasn't already, if she'll start next year and let us know how many miles she travels in a year. And she does such an absolutely great job. She's not just a warm body that's filling in. She does a great job, and I'm so grateful that her husband, 21 years ago, is that what it was? 19 years ago, married her and brought her into our community. And she is doing an outstanding job for us. So thank you. Thanks for having her. I don't know if this is premature or not, but is your daughter going to be our new school board member? So she does. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So, and you know, and for those of you in the audience that don't know this, her daughter went to school at Park Valley up until the 11th grade, and now she's a member of Bear River High School, 10th grade. Now she's a member of Bear River High School, and she lives with the host family, and every year we alternate back and forth with a student board member during the school year, and so Melissa's daughter will be that board member next year, so that's going to be really exciting to have her to be part of this. So thank you.
I have to tell you, a few months ago, I was at Walmart, and it was later in the day, and I saw Melissa, and she was doing her shopping, and we talked for just a minute, and she had been to meetings all day, principals meetings, and she was doing her shopping before she had to head home. And how long does it take you to get home after you shop?
An hour and a half.
Hour and a half. So, I mean, she puts in a big day, and she comes to these meetings and everything, so, well deserved. Congratulations. And then we just have a letter of thank you to Principal H.A. Gilmore and to his staff, and also Principal Jamie Kent and her staff. And Jamie is here, and Brandon are here. I don't see H.A. They're here tonight, but the graduations we were able to participate in last week were just so super, both of them. And we just wanted to thank them both for all their hard work and graduations. A lot of happy students, So, and that was always one of the highlights of our year as board members for these graduations. So thank you so much. Then we have a little something that we're going to give a little bit later to two individuals. We would like to honor a special and really special guy. He's been with us for so many years. And unfortunately, he's going to be leaving us. And I know he's going to be doing great, fun things. And that's Rod Cook, our business administrator down on the end. Rod is such a great guy. How long have you been in the district, Rod? 34 years. 34 years. And he has done just a super job as our business administrator. And we just want to give a big hand to Rod. We thank him so much, and we know his future is going to be bright and wonderful. And we want you to come back, Rod, and see us once in a while.
I'm gonna come protest the next.
Okay.
Thank you.
Also, would you like to say anything, Rod? Do you have any?
No, I was just.
We would also like to give a big thank you to our Assistant Superintendent, Carrie Greener. She is not with us tonight. She had a special commitment she had to go to, but we want to thank her. She's retiring, and she's worked many years in the district and has done just such a super job. She's going to be working with Solution Tree, and if you don't know, Solution Tree is instrumental in the PLC process, and a wonderful organization, and she will just do a super job there. We're going to miss Carrie as well. But we have a little something for both of them. We'll give yours to you tonight. Rod and Carrie's superintendent said he'd make sure that she got her special gift as well. So that's all my announcements.
She did go to, she's in Arkansas with the Title I schools, and they're at a special behavior conference and the Title I principals. So they left yesterday.
Yesterday
So
afternoon.
and Heidi Jo was the Title I and her replacement, so that's where they are in Arkansas. So you know they didn't go there for the she's I don't know if anybody's here from Arkansas. So
I've never been. That's one of my states. Thank you, Wade. Thank you for taking the time and for those. And thank you all for being here. I mean, I know it's hard. Sometimes we like to recognize you, and then you think, oh, we really do mean it. We really are grateful, and we really are proud of you and all the hard work and effort that you put in, and appreciate you being here, because we know there's just a lot of choices you can make, and you're making good ones, so we recognize that. Okay, let's move on to our agenda. Need an approval.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Karen Cronin to approve the agenda, and a second by Connie Archibald. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I should have excused you all. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. Okay, so we will get started on our agenda. Thank you for being here. Our agenda.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Karen Cronin to approve the agenda, and a second by Connie Archibald. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And I should be excused, you don't have to sit So we will get started on our agenda. Thank you. We have 3 people signed up for public comment. I'll just read your name and you come up in that order. Keep in mind, if you speak it to the podium, so the microphone there, so that you can hear it and second by Connie Archibald. If we have an eye limit, I should be excused, you don't have to sit So we will get started on our agenda. Thank you. We have signed up for public comment. I'll just read your name and you come up in that order. Keep in mind, if you speak it to the podium, so the microphone there, and no person, so that you can hear it and second by Connie Archibald. If we have an eye limit, I should be excused, you don't have to sit So let's get started on our agenda. Thank you. We have signed up for public comment. I'll just read your name and you come up in that order. Keep in mind, if you speak it to the podium, so.
All right, I was gonna complain about Rollins, but you just changed that rule. So, anyway, Jeff and we are very good friends, and I think our coaching staff really works well because we do pair up. Thank you for your time. Thanks for recognizing our teams. We had an incredible year. We have incredible athletes that come from incredible parents. What I just want to talk about 9 months ago, we came and talked about possibly getting a field house at Box Elder High School. So I just wanted to just check in, see how that's going, maybe move it from the back burner, the 10-year plan, or something a little sooner. And so here's the reasoning why. So as a track coach, I coach jumps and sprints, and every year I know who I have. So I have Jackson Kaczynski right now. I know I have him for 1 more year. But I know every freshman class, I need to develop people. I have to plan 4 years in advance. And if I get lucky, we win a state title when they're sophomores or juniors. Well, I have to absolutely know what I have and know what's coming. And what I want to stress about this field house really is the safety issues that are coming up when we add boys volleyball. And I am 100% not against adding boys volleyball. That is 100% fine with me. It will affect my high jumpers, but that's a different comment. Once we add boys volleyball, the gyms disappear for soccer, lacrosse, baseball, softball, track, golf, and tennis. That's over 500 kids that participate in those sports in just the spring. And when the weather gets bad, we all go in. And people ask, well, use the weight room. Our weight room can fit 40 comfortably, and it can fit 60 in an absolute jam. And that's not very safe, but we can fit. But we're still short 400 places. We can practice in the halls. The track team, we have the top hallway, we call it the bridge. That's where all 100 of us try and exercise to stay out of everyone else's way. Once we add volleyball, baseball, softball, soccer will not be able to use the gyms anymore during the inclement weather. So it comes to this argument of some people think we're just here to say we need to be more competitive. But it's the choice between, and the balance between, I should say, safety and practice and player development. We have to make a choice. Just quick example. On a few days when it's snowing, it's raining, the first 3 weeks of the indoor season or outdoor season, do we practice hurdles in the hall with wet floors that I will personally dry off with a towel, or do we not practice them at all? It is not safe to practice hurdles in a hall, but we have to develop our athletes at some point in time. We do a good job. Thank you. I'll just wrap it up with, I do appreciate all that you do for us, the recognition. Please think about that and the safety of those multiple athletes. Thank you.
Just FYI, for the next board meeting,
It's not safe to practice hurdles.
work session starting a lot of will go to 5:30. And we are discussing how late during that time.
I'll just wrap it up.
So I'm sure that's what I was talking to try to
Think about that.
see where best is and how to make it happen. I think, being northern Utah, just it's CBC business. There were some concerns I personally it's how they're just know, sure that's what
Think about that.
I didn't say that to like, but I might add to you, I really don't know what that actually is.
It's how they're all parts. Sure that's what Yes, there is.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't say that to like, but I might add to you.
I am here, I'm going to read this because I really noticed, I'm an in front of people person. I'm here today to discuss the bullying and lack of consequences in our schools, both to the students and to teachers, by the students and parents. My daughter is at the intermediate school in Tremonton, and she was stopped by a young man before, during lunch, and after school on the way to her bus. He would tell her, "You're worthless, you're ugly, suicide you. You have no purpose on this planet." She also had a chunk of hair cut from her head. She went to the teachers and the counselors and was told, "The best I can tell you is to ignore it." I spoke with the vice principal over the phone. I was told there's not much they can do because it is a TikTok trend. A week later, I was on our way, driving her to school, and the closer we got, the more nervous she got. She was picking at her skin, pulling out pieces of hair, and standing, rocking back and forth, whispering, I can do this, until she couldn't. She had a full mental breakdown saying, "I can't handle this. I am not a strong person. Maybe I'm worthless. Maybe I should just die." I went to the vice principal again, and finally, something got done. My daughter will not even use the bathrooms because of the drugs and the behavior in the intermediate school. Son, who just finished 4th grade, was diagnosed with autism when he was 3. He has been bullied by 2 boys all year long. The principal was aware, the teacher was aware. The students were calling him stupid, retarded, punching and kicking him in the face, the back of the head, and the genitals. No, that is sexual abuse. The school also knew about this. Nothing was done. She said, "I will look at the cameras," and nothing was done after that. One day, one of the boys started beating him up in class. He picked him up, squeezed him until he could not breathe, threw him on the floor, and started stepping on him. My son punched him in the gut and said, "I just had to get him to stop." He got up and yelled and said, "Get away from me." The teacher turned around and both boys ran out in the hall in different directions. My son said, "I was trying to find somewhere safe." 2 days after I spoke to the principal, the class changed seats. Guess who was sitting one person away from my son? Guess who got to go to all of the end of the year activities? I hear one of the boys has a hard life. I understand that, and I can sympathize with that. I grew up with a physical, mental, emotional, abusive, drug or alcoholic mother. There is no excuse for this behavior. We have to stop making excuses for these kids. It's not helping them, and it's helping no one else. Teachers feel, I have spoken with many teachers from different schools, from elementary school to high school, and they feel they have no support in what they can or cannot do to discipline in their classrooms. They feel like they don't have support from their administration in the school, in the district, or from the state. Consequences must be put into play for these kids. I have one small paragraph. Can I finish?
She needs to keep going.
I just have one more paragraph and I'm leaving. Consequences must be put into play. In our district alone, 2 suicides and 2 attempted suicides within a couple of months. It's not acceptable. It is only going to get worse. If something does not get done, we need to open our eyes and see a problem that is very clearly in front of our face and help our kids in the future.
Thank you for sharing those thoughts. We will
And 2 attempted suicides within a couple of
we'll
months.
look into that.
It's not
Appreciate
acceptable.
the
It is
letting us know
only
what's
going
going on
to get
and
worse.
being willing to come.
If something does not get done, we need to open our eyes and see a problem that is very clearly in front of our face
Amber.
and help our kids in the future.
Hi. Okay. I'm Amber Hayden. The Utah Public Schools Gender Guidance Resource, Utah Law and Policy, was placed on every principal's desk on the last day of school. Utah law, this is quote straight from it. Utah law is strong on protecting parental rights and government overreach. Utah schools need to take a clear stance on healthy support of gender nonconforming students, which includes the inclusion of parents at every level of decision making and progression. Through collaboration with parents, school officials, and qualified professionals, combined with comprehensive policies and implementation plans, will provide trans-identified and gender nonconforming students with an equal opportunity to be fully engaged in the school environment and to achieve academic success. School staff, this is later down in the policy, still quoting, school staff is required to notify parents if a student expresses a desire to identify as transgender, change his or her name, or use pronouns at school that don't correspond to their biological sex on their birth certificate. Utah allows for amendments to a child's birth certificate when accompanied by a court order. Students should be encouraged to talk with parents or guardians about their concerns. Teachers and administrators should not require, coerce, or compel others to use certain pronouns. Continuing, if a student requests different pronouns from their birth certificate, the teachers and other staff may use the student's name in place of a pronoun. The Utah educator may not promise to keep confidences from a student's parents. I'm reading that again. A Utah educator may not promise to keep confidences from a student's parents. In addition to compliance with the Family Educational Rights and Private Act and the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, a school must guard each student's privacy from unwarranted disclosures within the school setting, but never from students' parents. Why am I bringing this up? Well, last year we had a school group where 4 out of the 10 students identified as not their biological sex. Each person on the team was treated kindly and all were supportive. Awesome. The problem came when some of the parents were not informed about the name changes and their students and how they were identifying. It became a really big problem when the student was outed to the parents on a social media site instead of proper channels. The teacher, the coach did not inform the parents. How are we addressing this? What is the training for school teachers and staff and coaches?
Okay, this is a hot button issue. This is something that we've talked about a lot at state level and our state board talking. And so I don't think we have the answer right now, because that is definitely something we're looking at and working to have, and the policies that are coming down and we're reviewing. So it is on our minds. It's not, I wish I had a better answer for you, maybe we should have.
No, as you said,
Administrative. And the policies that are coming down and
That's
I might just make it simple.
It is on our mind, it's
Wanted to find out your opinion about gender and all of those types of things. It was the biggest, largest response, over 20,000 responses across the state of Utah went into that. It was overwhelming. And it was from here to here. I called our lawyer that works with us and I said, because at the end of the day, the State Board of Education said, we are not going to make a distinction or a ruling on what the whole state will do. Because some districts are like, just let us do this. Some districts said, you know what, we don't have maybe the manpower, if you will. So can you get a little guidance? So at the end of the day, just like you're saying, it is now left to Box Elder School District to make that determination of what that policy will be and what those requirements will be like. And so that is something that we'll be working on this summer. Communication will be given to all parents and staff. There's a lot of frustrations on, and I mean, I wish everybody's like here, but we know that they're from here to here. And as such, we're gonna have to find, that balance of supporting kids, supporting employees, supporting parents, and saying, how can we make this work? So I promise you, we will have some guidance there and how that looks, and we'll have that done before the start of the next year.
Thanks, Keith, that's great explanation. Okay. Thank you for being here for public comment. You're welcome to stay if you feel like you want to go, you can, but you're welcome. Okay, so first our action items. The first thing we're saying goodbye to Laura, which is hard for us all. We're so grateful for all he's done. We're also excited to welcome David Roberts as our new business administrator. So we need to have a motion.
But there are times when I'm required to sign, somebody is required to sign contracts as a representative of the board. And they even ask for proof that you're a representative of the board. And so as a board, you need to pass a resolution making David Roberts representative of the board. That'll be signed by Julie. Whoever signed that resolution. The board needs to make a motion to make him a representative. Are there any questions?
I have a question. Just as I sign the resolution, is it supposed to say on the bottom line that public or private to deal with Mr. Cook, or is that supposed to be Mr.
Oh, that should be Mr. Roberts. I made a typo there. I'll fix that and have Julie sign it. Thank you.
So with that change, I would make a motion to accept the resolution.
I will second that. Okay, so we have a motion by Hellman and a second by Nancy Kennedy to accept the resolution to give the authority to act to our new business administrator, David Roberts. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right. We're moving to a budget hearing, and if you recall, we have to move into a separate budget hearing. So I make a motion to move into the budget hearing for the 2022.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Karen Cronin, a second by to move into our budget hearing. All in favor, please say aye. Wait. Any opposed? Okay, we don't need to do that. No. Okay. Okay, so let's move on to the budget hearing. So, Rod.
By law, the budget has to be out to the public 3 days before this hearing. It's actually been out almost 20 days, and it's been out online. We've advertised it on the public website. We've advertised it in both newspapers so that people could get any budget information if they needed to. So this is just an opportunity for the public to make any comments that they or ask any questions on the budget approved by the school board. And you've also had it too.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or comments? No? Okay. It's a big budget.
Okay, with that, then David has a presentation that he'll present to you. You know, we haven't ever done that by motion. I guess maybe we should make a motion to move out of the budget hearing, and then somebody
I
wants
just
to
didn't know if
do
it was
it.
part of the hearing.
I don't know what the legalities are of it, to be honest. 34 years, you'd think I'd know something, but anyway. Let's go ahead, since we made a motion to move out, let's make a motion to move out.
Okay, so we have a motion by Karen Cronin to move out of our budget hearing.
Second.
By Clyde Woldemuth. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let's turn over to Dave for our presentation of the budget.
Excellent, thank you, President Julie and members of the board. Hey, basically what we try to do is we just try to boil down a lot of the budget down to what we thought was permanent and some of the more important weights. So if you will just look at that first slide, and the reason I have mine up is I did add a couple more slides because we were looking at some more numbers that we wanted to give to you guys as far as just comparisons. But anyway, just wanted to give you a couple small facts concerning Box Elder County, just the area, the population, kind of give you some idea of the growth and what's happening there. So anyway, all these numbers are coming off the U.S. Census, but you can see there that we have a really good graduation rate, home ownership rate's really good, and it kind of lists some of our biggest tax entities that participate in helping our students. Just some more information in regards to Box Elder School District in and of itself, the number of schools, and then just our student enrollment for fall 2021. These are some numbers that we're trying to gather for you. So anyway, as you look at that, we have 613 educators in Box Elder School District. That equates to, on average, 21 students per classroom. You can see the U.S. average right there. And then also, too, I know there is some perception that there's a lot of administrators, and then we just want to give you some more numbers in regards to our educator support professionals, how many of those we have in our district, and then also to compare our per pupil spending in the state of Utah on average versus what we're doing in Box Elder School District, which shows that we are making a diligent effort to put every dollar possible for our students. And then maybe someday, one of our wildest dreams will get up to the U.S. average. Okay, basic budgeting information. As you look at the budget, basically it's broken down into funds, and as you look at this, basically we divide it up so that you kind of can separate out how we're spending our monies. The majority of our funding is in the general fund. That's where all the instruction is charged and the revenue is showing is in our general fund. And then the other ones that we separate out, usually it's because by law, for example, the school lunch fund, because it's federally funded and all the monies have to be dedicated to school lunch, we have to keep all those funding and expenditures separate. So that's why that's broken out. And of course, we've got a couple other little funds. The agency fund, you guys may not be aware of, that's just a consortium that we have that we're acting as almost like a clearinghouse. Money comes in and the expenses occur, we send back out. So it's just kind of a holding place for them. And then again, just to give you a little bit more explanation in regards to how the accounting is done. The programs are basically, if you look at programs like CTE, special ed, those are programs, right? Objects kind of just basically help us delineate how our spending is so that it's more useful to the different departments and programs as well as schools. So that gives you kind of the layout, how the program makeup is. You got the fund, the location, the year, the program, the function, and the object. And all those kind of help us keep track of all the spending. And then our basic budget, just kind of let you know that the majority of our DEL funding does come from the state. And then we do have local participation. And we're grateful for the communities in Box Elder School District that help teach our kids. And then we do have a little bit of money comes federal.
So I have a question on that. Traditionally, our federal monies have been like 4 and 5%. Is this all the COVID relief and all the printing money
Yes, yeah.
randomly?
Yeah, Nancy, that's great.
This is the highest I've
We're
ever
usually
seen.
around 6 or 7.
Yeah, we're somewhere between 5 and 7. This is the ESSER funding. This is the $7 million that we're going to use to put air conditioning in schools. Okay, and then just note here, because we will be showing some additional exhibits and graphs. These numbers right here is for all funds, so that means it's taking not only the general fund, but the lunch fund and the capital outlay, and all those are putting them together. So just so you guys know that those percentages are based off all funds that we receive in the district. Okay, and then just kind of break up again for you guys to kind of understand where our property taxes are coming from and give you those numbers. And these are the revenue changes that we're expecting for 2023. In state programs, we're expecting an additional $3 million. And our WPU increase, we're expecting another $800,000. And then in programs, again, specific to those programs, we're expecting an additional 2.7. And then in textbook adoption, 2.1 million. And levy increase equalization, that's the equalization part that the legislature put into effect a couple years ago. We're expecting another 2.1 million there. Then our expenditures, this is kind of where we're anticipating a lot of that new money will go. Health and wellness, or health and, what's the A stand for? Accident. I was gonna say allowance, but I knew that one. Program increase offset, again, that's the money that, specifically to the programs, we have to spend the program, we can't spend it in other locations. And the growth, basically additional teachers, as we continue to grow, that's where that money is. The retirement savings, basically we're anticipating the fact that now that Rod's retired, we're gonna save us about $1 million. Actually, what's happening is, we're just showing that we're expecting less retirement, and the ones that did retire had a lot of years, and we're not anticipating that we'll have to spend as much in retirement benefits next year. And then COLA steps and lanes, which is the majority part of that, will occupy almost $6 million. Every fund.
That retirement savings is actually the difference between an old teacher and a new teacher, or an experienced teacher. I dare say old, because I am, and an experienced teacher and a new teacher.
Yep. Correct. All right, so there are other budget assumptions we just wanted to make you guys aware of. Again, there's that $7 million that we're using, that we received from the federal government, that we're going to use for some capital improvements. Our student counts, as far as that additional cost. And then the other ones, I don't think you should be too surprised, because I think every one of you guys have gone to Costco and realized that 5 dozen pack of eggs that used to cost $5.99 is now running $15.99. And that bag of chicken that was running around $12.99, $13.99 is now selling for $39.99. So you guys can kind of see where a lot of these increases are coming from. So we're anticipating that our budget hopefully will take a lot of that into consideration. However, just from the time that we planned for our fuel budget, it's gone up 30 cents since that time. So anyway, just kind of help you understand the increased costs that are happening.
Has there ever been a number run, how much we spend a day in fuel?
I don't know, Karen, that we've ever done a daily rate, but that would be probably easy to do, because we do calculate in its miles on a regular basis, so we could get that number for you if you like. Yeah, it might scare you, yes.
That scares me.
Be careful what you ask for.
Well, sometimes when you see it in the large, it's like, but when you can see it in this, the detail.
Yeah,
it makes it-
it's helpful, correct.
I put $103 worth of gas in my tank today, and my car was not empty when I started. I had to sit down and compose myself.
All right, so this is the general fund. This is the biggest fund that we have in the district. It kind of just shows you basically where our funding is coming from for that category. And that's roughly 70% of our budget, 75% of our budget, Rod, is that correct?
Yeah.
General fund. And again, so this is, look at this number, the compensation in our general fund, which is where our teachers are being paid out of. 84% of those funds are used toward compensation, towards salaries and benefits for our teachers, because we are a people resource organization.
Rough number, 1,300 gallons of gas a day. Of fuel. It's really rough, but that's close.
And that's diesel, that's not $5, that's $6 a gallon. Just so if you're doing your calculation. Okay, and then expenditures by general fund by program kind of just shows you the different categories. So again, as we get funding, these line items, we have to spend the revenue that we receive in those specific programs. So it kind of shows you, again, where our total expenditures are based off the individual programs. It's good information to kind of see where we're spending our efforts. Just wanted to bring this up to you guys to kind of explain a couple things here. Our cash reserves, if you've noticed, some of our reserves are staying stagnant or they're going down. And the reason this is important is because our expenditures are going up and it's going to be harder and harder to save. And so there might be some tough decisions coming around the corner as we continue to grow because there will be needs that will be associated with that growth. And also just to continue to stay well balanced and well reserved, we may have to spend a little bit of money and put it into some reserves. Again, I think we talked earlier, we may have to, depending on how our budget ends up, in the prices of fuel, we may have to dip into some of those reserves to offset fuel costs, depending on fuel costs continue to go up. So, again, it's important to always have a savings account. And this is kind of our long-term debt ratio, just the time frame there. And you can see that it is slowly going down, and we anticipate a big drop in 2029, an additional big drop in 2030. And the reason I show that is because the next slide is showing that we're continuing to grow. And I will tell you that based off my estimations for 2023 and 2024, I took the last 6-year average to anticipate what our growth might be for the next 2 following years. If I took just the last 2 years, that growth would be almost another 120 students more per year. So on a conservative standpoint, yeah, but if we want to take what we've seen recently just over our last 2 years, we'd actually be not estimating correctly as far as that. But I think a 5-year average is probably better than a 2-year average. But again, we've seen a lot of growth in the last 2 years, and I will tell you that there are school districts in the Salt Lake Valley that are not seeing any growth at all. And so I think what's happening is they're recognizing what a great place Black River County is, and they're coming this way. That's exactly what I did. Okay. Just give you some additional facts here. So the amount of minutes that our drivers spent on the bus last year were 4.6 million. If you want to give that down into the kind of help you understand how many minutes that is, that's 9 years our bus drivers spent on the bus last year. 9 years. Yeah, I'm assuming someone probably felt like it was 2 or 3.
Well, yeah, Melissa Morris's one.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
No, this is just buses, just students. So this is what we report on our A1 that we receive our transportation funding for. Miles driven was 1.3 million. That equates to going to the moon and back 3 times. That many miles. Meals served, 1.7. Breakfast is a third of that, lunch is 2/3 of that. But if you base that out based off the average pound per lunch meal, our kids are eating 189 elephants or 87 school buses. Random facts. Well, and I think it just kind of, in perspective, it kind of helps you go. 189 elephants are kids are eating. You know, you look at a meal and you think, it's no big deal, but until you combine it all together, you realize there's a lot of food that we're serving at our schools.
I don't have that slide. I don't have that slide.
That was one of the slides I added.
That's much more fun.
All right, I'll wait. I will say that.
Mr. Roberts, how do you eat an elephant?
One spoonful at a time. With a little peanut butter on it. Square footage, we have 2.2 million square feet of buildings in our school district. If you want to look at that, that's 39 football fields or 51 acres every day that is being cleaned. Painted, worked on, mowed, whatever that is. Anyway, so that's a lot of work that our employees are doing to make sure that our students are fed, transported, have clean buildings to be in, and classrooms that are prepped and ready to do the best we can to teach our students. Upcoming major considerations. I am just doing this based off of a person coming in fairly new, but here's some things that I just kind of caught my attention. The unassigned board contingency, the recommendation is 5%. You're supposed to have enough money in there to basically operate 3 months worth of emergency M&O. Currently, we're at 3.67%. We have to put roughly about $800,000 in there at the current time period to get up to around 5%. However, as costs go up and revenues go up, that percentage will continue to drop if we don't put money in there. So why is that important? Because if we need to decide as a board and as a school district that we need to go out for bond, our rating as well as our interest rates will be reflected on our ability to have this funded. Okay? Unassigned fund balance, that's basically the balance that's left over after we spend. And if you guys remember that graph, you saw that number has gone down over time. And again, it's just a matter of being prudent and fiscally responsible. Just have a little bit of money aside in case something happens in the school year. You guys see something that you guys want to fund and have implemented. Again, it'd be nice to have that money readily available so that you guys, when you guys make a decision that you feel is urgent and important, that there's funding there for you guys to implement that. Potential enrollment growth. Again, our county is growing. Where a lot of counties are not seeing that growth, we are seeing that growth. Which goes into the next one. We need to work and look at and be prudent about our long-range capital needs. So I will tell you that as Rod and I went out to schools, there was definitely some schools that said, holy smokes, we are bursting. And do you know that this subdivision are being built in our school boundaries? And they're scared. I think they're scared because of the number of kids that potentially could be coming into the school in the next 2 to 7 years. Retirement reserve. Rod has done an excellent job at setting money aside for retirement reserve. However, there has been conversations at the state level, and it is also considered a generally accepted accounting practice that these kind of things are 100% funded. Based off of our calculations and our independent auditor, we're sitting just over 50% funded. So again, it's not an absolute, and I wouldn't consider that to be your top priority, but again, that's something that we ought to keep in the back of our mind. And then health and wellness reserve, again, as we continue to have conversations about being self-insured, we may want to have an emergency fund to offset a year in which we have a lot more expenses from our employees going out than what we're receiving to help maintain the steady, consistent price of premiums and our employees' abilities to be able to use the health insurance prudently. And then I put the last one on there because I've had, last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of constituents, members of the community, and I hope I'm not ratting anybody out here, but people from the high school, Boxer High School, that are concerned about this. And they did state that there have been teams that have already told them, don't plan on us coming to your school next year unless you have turf because we're not playing on grass. So, which seems a little ironic, but anyway, and you did have a plea from a coach here regarding the field houses, so I think, they're just seeing this as something like Superintendent said, something maybe that we ought to move up as far as, our willingness to consider it from maybe 10 years to maybe, 2 or 3, just depending. But anyway, yeah, and as more sports get added, more buses are gonna be needed to take those students to activities, more competition for the gym, all those things come into play, and you just can't have 7 sports playing on grass and have that grass look like grass. Pretty soon it'll look like a sand lawn. So those are all considerations we need to look at. And then my recommendation is, as we start to see the payments decrease, then our tax rate will go down because we're not gonna require as much. I would say we probably ought to look at seriously considering some truth in taxation over the next couple of years. I think it's easier to hold consistently the amount a house owner is paying versus raising that up dramatically from what it was after it dropped down. So I personally, if I'm budgeting, and I know I got $10 and it's $10, instead of $10, $8, $7, $5, $15, I think it's easier to swallow. I think it's respectful to our constituents to try to alleviate that fluctuation as much as possible. So your board action tonight is to approve the final amended budget, to approve the proposed budget, and then to authorize a certain tax rate, any budget adjustments associated with that after we've received our final certified tax rate, which we have not received yet. Okay, so questions?
I do have one quick question. Going back to that graph of because you talked about the unassigned funds or the balance, we're at like 3.67%. We want to see a 5% recommendation. And then go back to that balance or that graph that shows cash reserves. What are the 3 different ones? I mean, I understand the restricted for state programs.
Okay.
What's the difference between the orange and the red?
Okay.
Or the blue, I mean.
So the kind of orange yellow, that's unassigned work contingency. That is the monies that we can't touch. You guys can take money out of that, and that is that 5% that we want to try to hold at 5%. That's that 3.87 right now.
And so that graph, like in 2021, it shows it's what, close to 4 million?
3.9.
3.9, so that's how much we have right now, and that is the 2.87%. Okay, that helps me, thank you.
And the, yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Just notice that one line that dropped from in 2020 to last, clear down in 2021. A lot of that has been, we've been going through COVID, and in spite of all the federal funds we got, we've made some decisions to do some things to expend local funds. And so we have, I had a reserve for budget cuts, I called it, which is if you had a bad year, we had a bad year. So I had a $2.8 million reserve, and we have spent it in the last 2 years.
I think
So
that, yeah, I
that's a good thing for you to know. Now we hope we're through the worst of it, but we did a similar thing back in 2008. You know, when you have problems, then you spend the money. So.
And I think that's what I was referring to, so that when we get to a situation where you guys want to spend money on something that you guys feel is an emergency situation and urgent and is needed, you guys have the funds to do that. And so Rod's been very good at having that money set aside, so when you guys did have that need, guess what? You were able to do it. So we need to, if you guys want to do that again, we need to start putting a little bit of money aside so that when you guys feel like that need comes up, you guys have the freedom to be able to say, yes, we're gonna do this. Okay?
Thank you.
I have a
question.
It's not a specific budget question, but
Can a team or a coach or a school actually say, we will not play school if we don't have turf?
Keith,
Not
that's
if they're
probably
in
your
the
question.
same, not if they're in the same region.
Well, that's what I
If they're in a
thought.
region, you will play where you're supposed to play, but if a preseason team
Or something.
doesn't wanna come, they don't have to, there's no obligation.
Okay.
Wait, I will tell you that the information I got, I'm not gonna divulge what teams it were, but it was not a team within the region that told them they would not come up.
I just wondered, I never heard that before, so that's why I asked.
It's my understanding also that 5% that we want to get up to for the board reserve, that will help us get better bond rates and stuff. Yeah.
So
Can I
better
just-
bond rates and interest rates, right? That's what you
Correct.
mentioned, Dave.
Yeah, because the better bond rating you have, the better interest rate you get.
Just a comment on taxes, just so you understand what's going on. So we have a relatively early board meeting month. June is a crazy month, try to change board meetings. So we went ahead and decided to have the board meeting on the 8th. By law, the county is supposed to have tax rates ready for us by the 20th. They never have them ready by the 20th anyway, so moving to later probably wouldn't help us. But we will within June, we're gonna get the tax rates. We don't have those. So I have to kind of guess, we've guessed on what that's gonna be. And so we're just asking you when we get those tax rates to kind of pre-approve them, and we'll adjust the budget accordingly. We don't think they're not gonna be huge changes from what we budgeted. So it's usually a minimal adjustment. And then in July, Dave can let you know what the adjustments were, but that's why we're kind of asking you to approve that ahead of time, because that is part of the law. You're supposed to approve the tax rates.
And we're conservative on that, so hopefully it's more than what we.
Yes.
budgeted.
And we have always appreciated the fact that Rod's been very conservative. Hold the line.
Any other questions for the board? I really appreciate the information. It's good to be aware of what's happening on what's happening and what's happening on the horizon. So we appreciate the time you put in, and we look forward to all of your expertise moving forward as we face this growth and some of these concerns that we know that we're against, I guess. Okay. Let's move to,
We need a motion.
Yep, I think we're, yes, we needed a motion.
I move that we approve the,
We have 2021.
So do both.
Yeah, so I move, that we're going to do both at the same time. I move we approve the tentative budget for 22-20.
And we need budget revision.
And the budget revision as things go.
Okay, so.
And the certified tax.
We did that all at once?
We just
Start
doing
again,
it all
Nancy,
as
try
well.
again.
Let's see, so I'm going to approve the revised budget, preliminary budget, presented along with the certified tax rate.
Okay, so we have a motion by Nancy Kennedy to approve the revised budget for 21-22, the preliminary budget for 22-23, and the certified tax rate. Do we have a second? And Tiffany seconds that. Any questions? We're voting on. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
I think with that goes out to the public that we are not.
Yes.
I just wanted to highlight that.
Oh, highlight, yes.
I'm opposed, but I think that's something I think the public will appreciate, and so I appreciate.
Okay, now we need to have a vote to go into the NBA meeting now.
It's a separate board.
It's a separate board.
The NBA board is a separate.
Do you have a question?
I do have a question.
I'm sorry, ladies.
I
I am so glad you're here. So I don't mean to be rude. I just am easily distracted and I'm trying to really focus. So if you could if you want to visit, just step outside. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Again, I'm not trying to be rude. I just really get distracted easily, so thanks.
So do we need a motion to move into our MBA meeting?
Yes, municipal building.
Municipal Building Authority. So we have a motion by Karen Cronin to move into our MBA meeting.
Second that.
And a second by Wade Hyde. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we're in our MBA meeting. This is just, Rod, do you want to explain it?
The Municipal Building Authority is clear back from, in 2008, we got some Obama funds to help us fund the building of Fielding Elementary School. It's a 20-year fund, and it was at 0%. The federal government supplements the interest on that municipal building authority. But legally, we had to set up a separate entity that leases the school building. The municipal building authority actually leases a portion of the school building, but the school district until it's paid. So that's kind of complicated, but you are the municipal building authority board. And so what you need to do is elect officers. Most of the time, those officers are just the current board members appointed. The current board leaders appointed as municipal building authority president and leadership. And then you need to approve the budget and approve the lease.
So do we have to do 3 separate motions for that?
Yes, I have
Okay.
set them up as 3 separate motions.
Okay, so first we need to approve the current officers of the Municipal Building Authority. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move we approve
Who
the
are they?
officers.
The current officers of the board. Okay, so,
I'll move we approve the current officers.
so Nancy
As officers of the MBA.
moves that we approve the current officers of the Board of Education as the officers of the MBA.
Second.
And a second by Karen. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, second, we need a motion for the lease agreement. Is that it, Rod?
Let's do the budget first.
Oh, the budget first, sorry, I'm looking at 2 different things, I'm not sure, okay.
Well,
So-
actually, I've got it as the budget and the lease agreement, so it should be just one motion.
Okay, so a motion for the budget and the lease agreement.
So I could just read this.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
I would like to move that pursuant to section 3.01 PF, sorry that I don't know what that means, that certain master lease agreement dated June 1st, 2011 between the Municipal Building Authority of Box Elder School District and Box Elder School District, the leasing. I make the motion to accept the lease renewal commencing July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2023, and adopt the budget as presented.
Thank you, Tiffany. We have a motion by Tiffany to adopt the budget and approve the lease. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
And a second by Connie Archibald. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. And now we need a motion to move back into regular board meeting.
I'll move we go back into regular board meeting.
Okay, we have a motion by Nancy Kennedy. A second by Tiffany Summers to move back into regular board meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. It was a very legal way of doing things, so thank you for your patience. That was good. Thanks, Rod. We're back in regular board meeting. Everybody's feel different? Okay, so we have, we need a motion for, Keith, do you want to explain this, non-contributory retirement rates?
Yeah, so everybody who is a contracted or 25 hours plus qualifies for retirement. We are, as the state of Utah, are part of a non-contributory plan right now, which means employees don't have to pay part of that. That's something we have to vote on, that we continue to pick that up as a district. There's one person in our district that was on the original plan when it was contributory. That number keeps dwindling, and we're down to 1. And so we need to pick up their part as well. So you'll see a non-contributory for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 employees. For the record, a Tier 2 employee is someone who was hired on after 2011, July. Okay, and so we have anybody that's jumped into a contracted position or a teaching position since 2011 is on a Tier 2. But we have to pick them both up, and the one individual who's still on the contributory plan.
Okay, so in the recommended motion, it has all of those. So any questions before we move? Go ahead, Wade.
I'll make a motion that the Box Elder School District Board of Education approve the non-contributory retirement rates for the 22-23 fiscal year for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 employees, and pick up rates for the employee on the contributory retirement plan.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Wade and a second by Connie to approve these retirement rates. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Let's go to, Keith, you're up again. The negotiated, this is kind of a fun part, I think. Negotiated agreements with the,
Yeah, so that, first of all, there's a lot of work that goes involved with this. We thank our association members, both BEA, Box Elder Education Support Professional Association, that's our education support staff, our administrators, Rod and Dave's work, Steve's just ability to get things moving in a positive direction. And we've had some great conversations. We tried something this year where rather than meet every night for like 5 nights for 2 hours, we said, you know what, we're gonna meet one day. And superintendent tried to meet with BEEA, the Educators Association, and try to work out some of the, what are the things that are kind of not money driven. And then I worked with the BESD, and it was great. So we actually had 1 day of negotiations for teachers, 1 day of negotiation for our education support staff. I thought it turned out great. I'm never going back with what we were able to do. They were very professional. They had, you know, the interest of their folks, which is our folks, right? It's not a us versus them. This has never felt that way, at least in my role. And so it's been great. We did have a, I'll just pull up the teachers one here so people in the audience.
on the agenda, are there 2 that are identical, like, are they double?
Well, they're all kind of identical, at least for this first part.
Well, but I mean, like, there's 2 BEAA, oh, there's BEAA and BEE.
Yes, you got the administrators, the teachers, and
I just
the.
want to read very
Just
carefully.
one letter change.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
But I'll just kind of give you, some are unique to one, and I mean, you can look at all of them. But here's basically what we offered. And by the way, I will tell you that the Teachers Association went out to a vote, and they approved what we had agreed upon. Obviously, your responsibility tonight is to ratify everything. And if this is, you know, if there's any red flags, but the Teachers Association approved this, administrators approved this, and the ESP and their respective associations have approved this. So just be aware of that. So 5.25% increase in the COLA, which is another name for cost of living allowance, which is, in the many years I've been here, I've never seen one that high. That is the highest in 29 years that I've seen. I might be wrong, but that was, it's pretty aggressive. Steps and lanes, as you know, in a salary line, if I'm teacher year 3 and I go to year 4, there's some money involved in that. We have to pick up that cost if we choose to. We always strive to do that. I want to say that number's approximately 2.4, 2.5. It costs us to keep letting people keep moving on the steps and lanes. I've decided not to show that amount because I've had people go, so we get another 2.47. Well, if you get an increase, it costs money to increase. So we just say we're covering steps and lanes. So steps and lanes, a step is year to year to year, and a lane is a bachelor's plus 25 hours of college credit, a bachelor's plus 50, or a master's. So as you go across the lane, so just a little information there. We've been doing a little bit of research, and you know, heaven forbid, but it does happen, and it happened this year to some of our employees, where they lost a spouse, or we've had it where they passed away, or a child has passed away. And we have, over the years, have moved this up a little bit from $5,000 for a life insurance policy to $10,000. And right now, the average cost for a funeral is around $12,000. We felt like we needed to get above it. It was not a major cost to our district, but felt like in the unfortunate event someone was to lose someone close to them, we would be able to help support them. Our voluntary dental premiums, will increase. Again, no one has to do this. It's a voluntary. We don't offer it. We offer it as an option. Just so you know, a couple years ago, it went down 8, went back up 3. So we're still less than we were 3 years ago, but it's only gonna be dollars, nothing real major on that. We looked at some bereavements of districts around us. And just, there were a couple things here that we were a little out of whack with districts around us, and so the proposal was to add a sibling for a 3-day, brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and miscarriage. Just this year, the state board, or the state legislators approved miscarriage or stillbirth as part of a bereavement plan, which has never really been official, and so we've added that. I think everything else is nothing that we necessarily need to talk about. We are trying to have equity with our men and women's sports as much as we can, and I think we made that adjustment this year as well. I may just add, when there was a discussion earlier about when volleyball is approved, just so you know, that is going to be something they're going to have to come to the board with a plan. It will be fall, will be spring of 2024. So we're a ways around it, but that is not official. We have not said that we're going to do it. That will be a board decision, and both high schools will have to decide if that's something they want to present to you for men's volleyball. But anyway, I decided to throw that out.
So the state doesn't start until 24?
Correct.
It won't be sanctioned.
It won't be sanctioned until well, it'll say the 23-24 season, but it's played in the spring. There's a lot of frustration with that, by the way, because of how crazy the spring is, and it seems like I digress. My point being,
I do have a question about that later, but.
yeah, and we can talk, but that needs to be discussed and presented and valued out. So anyway, do you have any? I could go on for hours, but it's written, and we would ask. And again, I want to thank the board for your willingness to really, I guess, give us some leeway to keep us as competitive as we can. One of my stresses is hiring people, and it's a battle, and not everybody does it because of money, but you certainly don't want to be that reason why you're not close. We've always been close, and especially the last 4 or 5 years, I think we've made a great commitment there. Again, the frugality of Rod has been amazing, and we've had some growth. We've had the equalization. We've had a few things go our way. We always like that. But I would recommend that the board approve this negotiated agreement for the 22-23 for all 3 associations, BEEA, BEAA, and SBA. If I added more B's, that's for excellency. So, thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Are there any questions? Okay, go ahead, Karen.
While she's looking, who decides when volleyball is played? Is that?
That's the Utah High School Activity Association.
So they pick the spring?
They pick the spring,
fall?
and that's there's a lot of frustration, and the fact that we're still a year out, I'm not 100% sure that it might not get moved to the spring or the fall when volleyball is played for girls. But again, we'll have to decide, do we want to jump in? You know, we have a wrestling girls program at Bear River, but not at Box Elder. That may be the case where we sponsored at Box Elder, but not at Bear River. I don't know any of those answers, but that'll be something that'll be forthcoming. But sorry, Karen.
Oh, no. In the BEAA one, when it talks about the steps and lanes. Oh, sorry. Tell me more about, I didn't know that we had steps and lanes for administrators, so just help me understand that a little bit more.
Yeah,
I
so
understand it for teachers, but it.
yeah, so the I could pull that up if you'd like. There's a salary schedule for administrators, and when someone goes from year 1 of being a elementary principal to year 2, there's an increase in their salary. When it goes to year 3, there's an increase. There are some gaps where, you know, from 6 to 10, it doesn't change. From 10 to 12, it doesn't change. From 12 to 15, and then it kind of caps, I think, at 20. if you're an administrator for 20 years, then you're just, that's what you are unless there's a cost of living. So each of our employees are on a salary schedule, and some have steps. They all have steps. Some have lanes, and teachers have lanes. Administrators are based on, are you an assistant principal at an intermediate middle level? Are you an assistant principal at a high school? Are you an elementary principal? Are you a principal at a middle school? Are you a principal at a high school? They all have increased amount of workloads to kind of justify, anyway. So I can show you.
Is that their lanes?
That would be the lane they're in, and then the steps would be the years
Yeah.
that they serve.
So the lane doesn't necessarily have to do with education for the administrators, it has to do with
The type of position they're in. So not every administrator is in the same bucket.
That's the lane right there.
That would be the lane.
But for teachers, the lane is.
The lane is based on education, and then steps would be years of experience. That's a great clarification.
Okay, thanks, that's what I was wondering.
Okay, great.
Present Taylor,
Yes.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
I would like to move this evening that the Box Elder Board of Education ratify the tentative agreement reached gratefully by the BEEA and the BEEAA and the BEESPA.
That's not bad. You only had one more E, and that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I think I added 3, so
Okay.
that's
Can
better
I have
than me.
not enough E's?
I think you had one too many.
Oh,
But
okay.
you're okay.
Just one time.
An extra E.
An extra E for
Excellence.
excellence.
Okay, thank you. Then we have a motion by Connie to ratify these agreements and a second by Karen. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Thank you for all the hard work. That's
In another year.
I'm so excited to send that email out tomorrow.
they'll be excited. I think that's great. Okay, so that moves us down to 9, declaration of open enrollment schools. So Keith, what are we?
I think for the audience, they might be interested in this, and I would like to
Yeah.
pull that up if that's okay.
Please do.
And not so much about the verbiage or whatever, but there's a pretty complicated formula. And whoa, that's pretty complicated. That's a little exciting, actually. Let me back that down just a little bit. There we go. There's a formula that involves classrooms, portables, kindergarten half day, is it used for both? How many people can be in that? Full day. With the full day coming in, it did adjust a few numbers because now a classroom can only have 20 kids versus 40 kids, which means if you're a school that had a little more space, you have less space. So we did see sort of a jump with this philosophy of adding all-day kindergarten, which is going to be great, but you're going to see a couple things here. So just so you know, the schools that have hit a 90% threshold, we designate as closed schools. And all that means is if I don't live in that boundary of that elementary school, I can't go to that elementary school unless it is involved with DLI. And their siblings, right? That's part of that rule. Century was closed last year. They are still closed. Their number did go up 3%. They're full. Lakeview is actually went down a little bit from last year, 1%. But when you have 106, like how do you have 106? You bring in portables. That's how you have 106. Okay. McKinley has always been one, but its number jumped. North Park was out last year and is up this year. Again, some growth numbers projected there. Plus, we started a DLI program. When you join a DLI program, you have to bring kids from other schools to come into that. So they went from open to now closed. Garland has always been closed, and you can see they're right on the cut line. And to be honest with you, an elementary principal at Garland or at Box Elder Middle would say, you know what, we're only going to look and see what grade is actually open. To say the whole school's open will not be the case, because when you're at 89, you might have a second grade, I can add some kids, but not a third grade. So those will all be based. Schools to watch, you know, Bear River now is, you know, they have their portables, Box Elder has their portables. Anyway, it's an interesting thing that we're watching very closely, and what, you know, David talked about, growth and potential, and a capital plan for long-term growth is certainly something that we'll have to look at this. In terms of staffing, we're very, we're looking at those numbers, and we're looking to try to, you know, but you have to have a room to add a teacher in most situations. So we're looking at all that. I know there's some public members that are a little antsy, and as you can see, McKinley and North Park are right in the heart of Tremont. And so they're like, and thus the conversations we have to have about size of schools, and I don't even want to go into that, but you know what I'm saying.
Can I ask a question?
We'll talk on the 13th of July.
Are any of these schools adding, because I know that we talked with the all-day kindergarten, was it last board meeting that we were approved for so many, but we're only gonna add, we're gonna add 2 this
So
year?
McKinley and North Park are both adding.
McKinley and North Park are adding. And is that
Century
included
is
in these?
adding, actually Century already had one, sorry.
Century-
Lakeview is
Lakeview
adding,
had- Oh, Lakeview's adding.
yes.
So is that included in these numbers? or
Yes.
is- Okay, that's included. Okay, good, because that would have been.
3 Titus schools, or the schools, the 3 schools we added all day?
Well,
Some of
those
us-
3 schools are all Title I schools. If Carrie was here, she could speak to that. Carrie, I hope you're having a great time at your conference. But Lakeview, McKinley, and North Park are all Title I. We felt like the support we needed to give the Title I schools is where we began.
No, I get it.
Long-term, Fielding, Garland. Oh, we're actually adding Willard as well. Forgot about that. Willard is being added, so there's 4.
Okay, so.
Oh, and
sorry,
Golden Spike's gonna have 2 because we're joining,
We're joining now.
we're
So
joining-
does every elementary school right now have at least 1 all-day kindergarten?
yes.
And we're adding.
Well, not 3 Mile Creek. They don't have
Oh, because they
kindergarten.
don't have kindergarten. Okay, so every school that has kindergarten has an all-day kindergarten, and we're adding 4 additional all-day kindergartens for this campus.
And then next year, our anticipation, if we can have space and portables, and we get ahead of the game financially, so we know what's happening, we'll do that.
And remind me again how they, to qualify, it's not like, I want my kid in all day and I don't. It's you take a test, you qualify to be, you have a need to be in all day. And if they have, like I'm just asking about Lakeview, because I'm familiar with that school. I know they have 1 all day right now, they're gonna go to 2. If there's not enough need for all 40 spots or whatnot, do they then let parents say, I'd like to have an all day, or how do they, if there's only 30 kids?
Carrie Greener, do you want to call me?
Okay, well, that may be a discussion for another time. That's
I
just
think we'll have enough.
I think we'll have, okay,
I think we'll have enough.
that's what I.
I don't
would
think we'll
anticipate.
ever just say, well, we just gotta run 30, because we only have 30 kids with needs. I really think we have 50, and probably can only get 40.
That's what I was.
It's interesting, just last night on the news, there was a parent talking about their child that just got in the lottery in a school in Salt Lake to be in kindergarten next year. So that is happening in some places.
Right.
Some places.
As David said, numbers are going down within sometimes the city limits, so that might have been the reason for that.
That's good to know, thank you.
So this will cause, a little bit of angst, maybe if I wanted to go to this school. You'll have to go back to your home school, and we'll just do the best we can. So,
Just hit me.
Yep.
Right now, the state gives us 0.55 of the WPU when a child is in half-day kindergarten. So when they go full-day kindergarten, our WPU number will increase, but we really won't increase, by that 0.45%, but we really won't increase the number of kids. Is that how you see it, Dave and Rod? So that'll be a little deceptive, but we'll get the money for it, because like I said, they give us now 0.55 of WPU. When it's a full day, they'll get the full 100%.
and just to remind you, not some, but there was a allotment financially to help with that.
Yeah.
That's paying for those additional costs. So when Dave said additional, there was a line item about 800,000 for new teachers. These little changes are not reflecting on that, because there is money associated with that.
Is it just for teachers or portables? Have we ordered the portables?
No, it's for the teacher and the full-time para.
There's no capital money put in for this.
Just kind of do that on your own, Jack.
Show you what to do when you find money for it.
Get out there.
Yes, Wade?
Julianne, give you a little history about full-day kindergarten, because the first year it started, it was a discovery school, and my Sadie was kindergarten. She was in a half day, but they could not get enough students in there because they thought it would be a negative thing being in all day, kids would make fun of them, good thing. But Sharon Brown, who's principal, called me and says, wait, we cannot get enough students, would you mind if Sadie would be in it? And I said, well, sure, I thought it was a plus. And you know, through the years, that has become so popular because the kids have done so incredibly well that now everybody wants to be in it. So I don't think you'll ever have a
Right.
thing where you won't have enough.
That's good to know, and I was gonna say, I think we'll have plenty that do, I just was wondering about if they qualify, like if we have only 30 qualified, then there's, everybody else wants in.
Well, true.
But if we think, I think what we're saying is we probably have plenty that are gonna qualify, we're still gonna have to turn kids away, unfortunately, so. That's good to know though, because I think that is,
So it was a different thing when it started.
yes, it
It's
was.
totally different.
Kinda like DLI when it first started, people were like, are we
Right.
sure, do we want to, and now everybody's like, let me in, let me in. Okay,
So I would just move that you would, I guess, approve the declaration of these open schools for this year. We will communicate with parents. We send out a link, and those schools aren't on the link.
Oh.
Like, they're like, I'd like to go to this school. How come they're not there? Because they're closed.
Chief, I think you misspoke, you said declaration of open schools, you mean.
Well,
closed.
it's
kinda-
interesting that we call it, I didn't put the declaration of open enrollment, but it is really designating closed schools, but I don't know why they call it declaration of open enrollment.
Because we want to be positive and say, come to
These
our
are the ones you
school.
get to
do
go
we have
to.
to do a separate one for like the grade levels, or is
No.
that just like a school by school basis thing?
That's
And now remember, the four that we're watching are not in this.
Right.
That
I'm just
number
gonna
below
go-
90, they are not in this, so don't say their names.
I'm just gonna go with what's written here.
That's a good
Move that the Century Elementary, Lakeview Elementary, McKinley Elementary, and North Park Elementary be designated as closed, the exception of students and their families involved in the dual immersion program, to students transferring in from outside the school's established attendance area.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Karen and a second by Nancy to approve these schools as closed. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Let's go on to school fees.
I'm really looking to get out of the business of talking tonight. So, how do I describe this? You're like, come on, Meekum, get your act together. So here's the deal. When in January, we started talking about, let's get this transparent, put it all on paper. Okay? There's a little scenario that we never considered, and it was called out-of-state travel. As you know, out-of-state travel rarely happens. I mean, okay, we have a wrestling tournament in Evanston. That's like going to Provo, just a different route. I don't worry about that. What I worry about is, what if one of our athletic teams, and we do this with madrigals, you know, robotics, they leave, their out-of-state travel is not part of their fees, because they don't do it every week or every year. And what we heard from parents, and actually the advisors and coaches, is this: if we were to put $1,400 for band in one encompassing amount, they're like, if I'm new to what that means, even if it says on a travel year, that's what it could be, but to show 1,400 as a max, some parents are gonna go, we're not doing band. But the year you travel, there will be an additional cost. So here's the deal. I'll just give you one example. Box Elder High School has been approved for their boys basketball team to travel to a tournament in North Carolina. We just checked flights. By the way, the cap is 800. 800 is what we capped it at, right? 800, you subtract 100 for participation and a $5 drug fee. The most we can charge is $695. That's for, right? Well, the flights to North Carolina as of this weekend is $650 round trip. So they've got $35 to eat, to stay in a hotel for multiple nights. So our policy prevents any out-of-state travel for athletics. Now, that may beg another conversation. But when we were talking about being transparent and looking at that number, we were really looking at trips to St. George and what we do here locally. That was kind of the discussion. And and I'll take the hit, I just didn't even think about the out-of-state travel and then I read about this after we'd approved the fees, like, oh, you can't go. You can't get under that number. There's no way. Plus, flights have increased by $300 since January. So really, if we're gonna approve an out-of-state travel, I think not only do we need to say it's not part of it, but maybe what is the going rate? Because just remind you, we normally do this in January. Some of these teams might travel 12 to 15 months later. I don't know how we're gonna. Now they could come and beg and say, hey, can we get an exception? Or, which I'm fine with. But anyway, guess what I'm saying? Is I think that just like all the other clubs and teams, out-of-state travel is not listed. I think the same thing needs to be for any athletic team that gets the opportunity to leave. And I'm not talking Evanston, Wyoming, or Pocatello, Idaho. I'm talking California or anything on the East Coast. Remind you that you can't go on an overnight travel out-of-state trip without parent input. There's a survey. All parents have to approve and get all of the information and have a vote. So in order to go to North Carolina for this tournament, all of those, I guess, again, tryouts haven't happened, but whoever is returning from last year's teams, again, not guaranteed, but you know what I'm saying, you gotta have the nucleus. They are in favor of this, that's why they approved it, which then went and was approved as one of those out-of-state trips. So, Steve, I've taken way too much time. I'll just tell you that right now.
Took his Listerine to make sure his throat was good.
I do like the line where it talks about $245 a night or current market value, whichever is less.
So this is
I think that helps a
So
lot.
notice that we have in all the other areas, overnight travel not included, overnight travel not included, overnight travel. This one didn't say anything about that. I'm thinking it needs to be, otherwise the first time anybody approves it, they just broke policy. And I would rather have it be consistent. And then what Nancy just mentioned, which is, this little box up here. $245 a night is kind of what we're hoping for, but going to Arizona might be a little less expensive than going to New York. And I'll just tell you, the first time that the band or the choirs decide to travel back east, they're gonna break this policy according to what gas prices are right now on flights, etc. So I don't know how you wanna handle that. If you would rather say, hey, it looks like the current market rate might go over, but we've already approved, I'll follow your guide. But it is an issue that I didn't mean to cause, and I don't wanna talk about fees anymore. In fact, I'm really thinking about passing them on to the business administrator to help support this long-term, but it has been a good opportunity to be a part of the athletic piece, which I'm familiar with, but also recognize the importance of keeping fees as low as we can, giving kids opportunities that they would never have in their life, and being transparent with parents, knowing that all these numbers are fee waiverable if there's a kiddo whose family situation qualifies them for a federal program that we don't have a say whether or not they qualify or don't, other than if they have the proof, they do. So with that, I'm open to any questions, comments, and we'll try to do my best to explain.
Okay, so, Nancy made the comment, she likes the line of current market value, whichever is less. How does the board feel about that? Do we want them to come one by one, or do we want to set that now? What are your thoughts?
I don't want them to come one by one, I want a trust.
Trust
The action
administration.
to handle that.
I feel the same way. Is there any other? Okay. Are there any other questions about this fee schedule? It seems like we talk about fees every
This is only the
single
third
month.
time since December,
So I have.
but I don't wanna talk about it anymore.
And we're only the 6th month. of
I know, it's only
So
50% of the time.
I have a question by something you said. So when we get something for request for out-of-state travel, is that already have they already had the parent meeting?
Yes.
Or do they come here first and ask, well, can we?
No,
And then
they
have
send
to-
something to me to ask if they can start the survey. So that happens, yes.
So that happens.
That triggers the,
Before we see it, the parents already
That's
voted they
survey.
want it.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And then can we see
the results.
Yes.
We would have that information.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't have the one that I'm referring to, but I'm sure we could if you wanted to. But in the future, they send an email to superintendent, can we start it? Yes, because remember, there's
And I've-
only so many per year, right?
I've never seen it either, I'll be honest with you, but the principals do the survey, they then report back, hey, we've done the survey, we've had the vast majority, I don't know if we ever have 100%, so, but
I think
yes.
it'd be interesting to know those results. of the
Yeah, I think
survey.
that's a great
Well,
suggestion.
didn't we set a percentage that
It's
it needs?
80%.
80%.
80% had to-
And they usually, for 15 years, I never saw one that was even close. There's usually good support and the vote's pretty high.
It's
But
a little,
80.
it's a little easier to get the vote when you know you're in a club or a sport where there's not a cut.
Yeah.
But you still kind of go with, these are the people that are in the program this last year, not saying they're the only ones, but with what we have, that's a place you start. And they have to approve, they have to get into a tournament. Like, we would schedule, honestly, in January for the next year. So you kind of have to, and this is all really weird because we do this a year in advance, but yet they got to have it, and it's kind of complicated. It's not in the moment always, so.
And what I think is interesting is that I've been to Disneyland twice for productions. They performed at Disneyland, Box Elder Productions. And once with Madrigals back to New York where they performed at St. Patrick's Cathedral. And it was a wonderful experience, everyone. But there were almost as many parents go than there are kids. And they pay for their own way. So it's a really positive, fun, learning, good thing. It really is.
But we do recognize that there are families that are unable to do that. And this provides them an opportunity to go because it's fee waiverable. We don't put it on the backs of those that can. And, you know, we have the opportunity to help support and equalize that opportunity.
Right.
Okay, thank you for those input. Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
Sure, I'll make a stab at it again. I move that we approve the amendment of the 2022-23 BESD general student fees and deposit schedule by not including the state overnight travel as part of the BESD athletic fees. In addition, the out-of-state travel amount will be $245 a night or current market value, whichever is less.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Nancy Kennedy and a second by Wade Hyde to approve the amendment to the fees to not include out-of-state travel for the BESD athletic and set that amount for market value. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thanks, Keith. Don't bring any good thing fees back anymore.
I think
Until
I'm
next
done.
year.
You know someone's gonna ask you about international trip now. Just because you haven't put
I
that in
know.
there.
I'm not excited about it.
So that's good though. I think that helps clarify things and when it's on the schedule like that, that'll be good to know. All right.
Was Carrie actually there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there she is.
Hey, Carrie and Heidi Joe. Welcome to the meeting. It's
Good to
been-
see
it's
you.
been
Can you hear
riveting. Oh, I can't hear her. I don't know if that's a mute.
We can't hear you, Carrie.
Hold on. You don't have it on mute, you've maximized it.
What city are they in? Jonesboro or
Little Rock
We're trying to stretch
or
the story
Walmart,
further.
birthplace of Walmart.
Bentonville?
that where that is?
And just realize we don't know why that didn't come on tonight. So
I was gonna say.
we had multiple technology issues tonight. That seemed to be the least priority. Now it seems like a really high priority, so you can see Gary. But
That's okay. I'll just rest.
It is 10:30 where they are right now, and they were complaining about bedtime earlier, so.
Oh, well, let's get moving.
okay.
So what question do we have for Carrie?
Well,
Or
she's
is
the
that
next.
She's the next one for our TSSA.
Oh, Carrie, we did have a question. You know what?
I don't remember.
You're saying this is on me? Seriously, you're gonna send that through a text? This is on me? I'm talking, you're hearing, you're talking, I'm not hearing. What on earth would this be?
What was-
Oh,
we
you
had a
know what?
question for
Let me,
Yes. What audio is coming out
Right.
of your computer?
yeah, let me try this. Yeah.
Was it, oh,
It's doing the output, it's doing right. Try that one and then she is being.
Oh, Carrie, can you hear us?
She's calling.
Hey, I can hear you now.
Yeah, but it's not.
Okay, can you hear me?
She's got it on the.
Is it through there? Okay, I'm gonna hang up.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so we're to the TSSA plans, so we have.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
To the TSSA plan. Yes. Oh my gosh.
Hi.
Okay, how about we do this?
Sit on that
So does anybody have questions for Carrie or Gary regarding the TSSA plans that you reviewed?
most of them look pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So I would just say between those two, as we've reviewed them, and I think the administrators, they actually have a team as well. My recommendation, just maybe to help on the technology, my recommendation is that we accept the elementary and secondary TSSA plans as they were written.
Okay. So we have a recommendation by Gary to accept these plans. Are you good with that, Carrie?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is there in the school and trust, whatever the wording is of that is supposed to be used for the greatest academic meeting, is there any qualification for TSSA?
Does not have to be based on their, say, the highest academic need like it does for school and trust. They're just to be based on the needs that the school has. Most of those goals that you read for their TSSA are the same goals that their school and trust plan. And then that's, the TSSA gives them an avenue to be able to do other things. That's how they usually support their PBIF system in their school. It's how they support more of their math, for elementary, more of their math and literacy paraprofessionals are also ways that they fund them. Or can pay for anything, like if they want to have a drama club, or if they want to have anything with technology or anything, projects like that for kids after school, that's a way that they can be stipends just through that TSSA money.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Nancy.
I was excited to see Golden Spike listed.
Nancy.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I was excited to see Golden Spike listed, but who is the committee that helped put that together?
On the TSSA, it is the principal that really is the driving force behind the TSSA plans. They will share that with their school community council is approved, but it isn't a plan that you necessarily approve with your school community council, like you do your school land trust. That's why they couldn't write their school land trust plan, because they don't have a school community council formed until the fall.
So they didn't need any input from other entities at all?
They just did from teachers, and then Shapeland took that and then just did that with teachers.
Okay, that's what I wondered. Thank you.
Okay. All right, we have a motion.
Move that we accept both the elementary and the secondary TSSA plans.
Second that?
So we have a motion by Karen, motion by Karen, and a second by Wade to approve the secondary and elementary TSSA plans as submitted. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we passed those.
Do you want to
Okay,
ask her the question that we all kind of tried to
What's
figure
the
out?
about
It was
kindergarten?
about kindergarten, and if they didn't have enough to qualify, would they ever add people that?
so Carrie, we had a question, we were talking about closed schools and the kindergarten enrollment, like, because we're adding additional all-day kindergarten, so let's say only 30 technically qualify for all-day kindergarten, how would they add to fill up those classes? Is there a program in place, or we just don't anticipate that need right now?
There's no such thing as filling up an all day. They would just take, it's because it's really based off those academic needs. And we just keep filling that. Even when I was a principal and someone checked out, we always had someone that we could replace that student with. So there isn't like you get a certain score so you no longer qualify.
Okay.
It really does, we just would take, for example, a school would probably get 44 kids would get the opportunity to be in an all-day kindergarten situation.
Okay.
So,
Or with the highest need.
yeah. And those would be, we would start with the bottom, we just start with,
And then the
because
next
some of those
size.
that are even in that 44, there'll be parents
it's
who have
not a
said,
bar,
no, don't
it's
want their
just
student to do that, and we just go to
most
the next
impact.
student down the list. But we would never not fill those classes.
Sure. Okay,
That makes sense?
that does, that helps, thank you.
So it's not an application process per se?
No.
Then it's just
No.
a ranking
The
of.
most 44 impacted.
They do their key testing in the fall, that first week of school, and that is based off that. They usually have that testing done by Thursday of the first week of school, and then the principal and the coach sit down and go through that data together, and they really just look at their students and rank them, the academic, lowest academic need, and just rank them all the way up, and you just start calling, because it really is, if parents don't want it, obviously you can't make them, so there are some parents who just say no, they'd rather not, and you just move to the next one.
Okay,
But you would just fill both of those classes first.
thank you, that clarifies things. Okay, so our next item is you, Carrie, it's the ELA elementary adoption.
Yes.
What is?
If you guys have any questions, we just went through the adoption process, and we were hoping to have this on the agenda clear back in April. And then there was some legislation that was passed that required us to kind of put a halt on the adoption because there were additional vendors that were going to be added to the state and a different set of rubrics for us to look at to evaluate curriculum. So we put a pause on it, and we didn't think we were going to be able to continue the process until August. But the state was able to put things in place, and so we did hear from 2 additional vendors in May, and then we held our meeting up and got it narrowed down to our top 3, and then we had the entire committee come back. They came back at an evening from 4 to 8, and we went through through the rubrics that we were sent from the state. We went through each rubric with each of those vendors and narrowed it down to our top 2. And so K2 is Super Kids, which what we're recommending to be adopted for kindergarten through 2nd grade. And that has so hopefully we're hoping it is. We've made our best efforts to do the best we can without actually teaching a program. But we feel confident in what we saw that we'll be able to use that program without having to purchase at this time an additional phonics program, which we had to do in our last adoption. And then the best that we feel for, because Super Kids is only a K2 program, our national consultant that works for our district, Patty Montgomery from Schools Cube, she's all over the nation, and she just had given us the pros and cons of each of the programs as well. And so the 3rd through 5th grade chose Wonders, and she said it dovetails nicely with Super Kids, and she's been able to work with lots of districts that's had K2 as their Super Kids as their K2 program, and then Wonders as their 3-5 program. So she's part of our team next year in elementary as well, and she'll help us bridge making sure that we can have that be a nice transition for kids as they transition from 2nd to 3rd grade and kind of takes on a different program. So we're looking forward to having some nice research-based resources for our teachers to be able to use to teach the ELA standards. So that was the committee's recommendation, and that's put forth to you, and my recommendation to you is to accept their recommendation as Super Kids for K2 and Wonders for 3-5.
Any questions from the board? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion this evening that we approve the recommendation given us as to having Super Kids for K through 2 and McCraw Hills Wonders for 3rd through 5th grade.
Second. And, okay, we have a motion by Connie and a second by Karen to approve the ELA adoption for, as outlined. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Thank you.
Is that it, Carrie, on the agenda?
I think that's it for Carrie on the agenda.
Yeah, there is. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you for being here. Now you can go to bed. It's just like,
We are, it's late here.
I know. Thank you for being here.
Hey, see you guys.
Okay, wow, we approved a lot of the things tonight. So now we have some information items. The first information item we have is Jenny Schultz. And I saw you back there. You're welcome to come up to the podium here and share your presentation with us.
Recording. I'm actually going to be the podium pretty soon. I'm going to turn the time over to Doreen Stever and Tiffany Palmer because it is getting late. But I wanted to thank Karen Cronin for setting up our presentation and allowing us to come and present a little more about our coalition and a future project that we're going to be doing for the community. So I'll turn the time over to Doreen Stever.
A future project that we're going to show you, I can see would be very beneficial to this group tonight. You guys did an amazing job. We are part of the Northern Box Elder County Suicide Prevention Coalition. Oh, wait, I do have a soft voice. We started this coalition in 2011, and the purpose of the coalition was to bring together a wide range of individuals and organizations in Northern Box. Suicide prevention, awareness, and education. Our coalition consists of mental health professionals, health department, healthcare professionals, law enforcement, local business, community members, and of course our schools up there. We feel extremely fortunate to have our school counselors part of our team, and we always like to recognize the two counselors that helps us a lot, Kelly Rose and Aaron Tesh, and the Hope Squads. Those Hope Squads over the year have been one of our greatest assets. They're always there to help us with our town hall meetings and are willing to pitch in with everything. Our mission statement is to let the community know it is okay to ask for help. No community is exempt from suicide. Suicide affects all ages, gender, race, and economics. We also want to change the stigmas that go with suicide. One of the stigmas at the time was if there had been a suicide, people thought you should not talk about it because you would cause more suicide, especially in young people. Well, we now recognize that is just not true. We know it is okay to talk about suicides. In fact, it can help prevent suicides. Also, our goal was to educate the community that mental illness is a disease just like diabetes, high blood pressure, a broken bone. We wanted people to understand it is okay to get help from your doctor. One of the tools that we have used in our town hall is our town hall meetings. We focus on the different elements of mental health, such as depression, anxiety, or drug addiction, by using personal stories that people can relate to, so people and families do not feel alone. Another tool we use is our Suicide Awareness Walk, which supports families who have lost someone to suicide. We all want everyone to be healthy, physically and mentally. The coalition understands the dynamics of our community, and not having enough mental health resources is very frustrating to everybody. Out of this frustration came the idea, what if? What if we had a community space where people can take advantage of being outdoors? A space to have quiet moments, calm thoughts, reflection, or even meditation, which helps benefit the wellness of the mind. Mental health wellness is a key factor in creating a resilient community. From this what if idea came other ideas to explore, such as when Garland City started talking about expanding their park, that maybe they could create a space for us. Since there is a section in the Recovery Act for money to be used for mental health in communities, we thought that could be a possibility. And from that, other opportunities presented themselves, such as the land being donated, and Utah State seeing our vision and helping us with the idea. Again, it was okay to ask for some help. A green space is another tool we can use to help people in our community. A community oasis, a wellness garden, a place to reflect, relax, and recharge.
I'm just going to tell you some of the benefits of the green space. Green space gives us a place to change our focus from thinking of all the tasks that we need to do, the things or the people that need to be dealt with and all the chaos of our minds, our lives, and our world. It allows us to focus on a more passive attention, one of just breathing, relaxing, enjoying the tranquil surroundings. It reduces stress and improves sleep. It increases happiness, and it helps generate a sense of meaning to life. The labyrinth is a great tool that uses right brain activity, helping us to be more creative, intuitive, and imaginative. It becomes a walking meditation. It slows our breathing, slows our heart rate, and lowers our blood pressure. It creates a sense of control. It calms anxiety and reduces stress, clears and quiets and resets the mind, and promotes relaxation. In our plans, we have included a water feature. Just being next to water has its own benefits. It has a calming effect. The mere sight and sound of water can induce a flood of neurochemicals that promote wellness, increase blood flow to the brain and heart, and induce relaxation. It induces a meditative state that makes us happier, healthier, calmer, more creative, and more capable of awe. It's easy to get lost in the chaos and ugliness of what can be an overwhelming world, but green spaces allow us to see and focus on the beauty that is still in this world.
We are in the planning stages, and there's a lot of questions people have. But what I can say at this time, it will definitely be in Garland, and we're hoping any day now we'll be able to announce the location. But it's important to understand this will be a community area. This is open to everyone in our valley. It will not be a park where you take your kids to. It will not be a dog park or walking park. And it will not be a community garden. It will be a peaceful place open to everyone who would like to take a few minutes to recharge. We also know this is not a cure-all for all mental illness, but a tool to help with mental wellness. That's why we're just asking for your support and wanted you to be aware of what we're trying to create for our community, because it will benefit our entire community. Thank you, guys.
Did you guys have any questions before we run?
I think this is wonderful. I really think it's wonderful. I just wondered, I noticed your concept plan, and it's going to be in Garland, I thought it said Garland.
Yeah, it's gonna
So
be
it's
in
gonna be in
Garland.
Garland. Do you have the funding for it already, or are you working on that, or?
So, Brigham City actually voted to give some land to this project, and when a community member heard about this, they had some land, and it would be a larger area, so they decided to donate that to our coalition. So we already have the land donated, and I have been working with Garland City, and we're doing grants, and that's why we're also here, because we need community support. So from the school board and from individuals, because our little coalition is truly just community members. It's not agency, there are people who work for agencies or groups, but it's really just community people. So we'll need all the support we can get, but we're halfway there, so.
That's fantastic. Thank you for being in here and sharing that with us, and I look forward to seeing the progress. We can definitely support that. And
Best of everything. It's
all right.
great.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. Okay, our next item is the bid for the Lynn School property. Corey.
Okay, Keith, can you bring that up?
I can, actually.
There's a Google
We're
slide.
talking this?
Yeah.
Look at that. There.
Okay, so this could be really quick, but they asked me to put together something for, I don't know, it's information, but just something to culminate the process of liquidating the property in Lynn, Utah. You can go to the next slide. So on December 8th, and hopefully you have this in board book if you need to look, but on December 8th of 21, the Junction School in Lynn, Utah was declared surplus by you as a school board. And authority was given for administration to liquidate the property to highest bid. And so we've done that. The sealed bids were due yesterday by 2 p.m. The next slide goes over some specifics of the building. It's just over 1,000 square feet, and as a point of reference, a typical classroom in our district is just under 900 square feet. So everything in that building is, so it's literally kind of a one-room old schoolhouse. It has a kitchen, it has a toilet closet and a shower closet, I guess, for lack of better terms. It's not a all-in-one restroom. It's on 2 acres.
Spectacular
Go ahead.
wood floors. The wood floors are amazing, and there's more chalkboards than you've ever seen anywhere.
Yeah, so 2 acres. I jokingly say 2 acres of prime sagebrush. That's what's out there, and if you're not familiar with where it is, located about half an hour north of Grouse Creek, and about, 45 minutes to an hour west, west of Park Valley if you go through Dove Creek. So it's kind of, some people would say out in the middle of nowhere, but it does have electricity. It has propane, septic tank, it's a shared well, and there is fiber stubbed to the building. So if somebody's looking to get off grid and away from everybody, that's not the place, because you have great cell service. There's a new metal roof that we put on last fall because the roof was failing, and we decided either we put a little bit of money into it or we're going to just be tearing the building down, and then it's not worth anything. And we did state that the sale is as is, no guarantee or warranty.
Corey, when was the last time it was used as a?
We don't know. So we're guessing sometime in the 60s, 50s. As long as we're aware it's been used on a limited basis by the Division of Natural Resources and other state entities as kind of a way station where they could go and stay overnight as they're out doing field work. So we can go to the next one. I have some pictures just so you can get an idea of what it looks like. This is from the road. The next one is actually the official front of the school, even though it's not used as an entrance. And then the next one is the side opposite the road. So those windows that you see are into the classroom portion of the building. The next picture, that is the kitchen. That's the back door, but that's the door that has been the mainly used entrance to that building. The next one, that is looking in that entrance going in. On your left is the shower. The next door on your left is the toilet and sink. On your right is the kitchen.
That makes it look like a lot walking.
It does, yeah. So this is a panorama. I tried to do some videos, but it took up too much space and I couldn't email them very easy. So this is a panorama of the kitchen. I don't know how modern you want to say there's not a dishwasher, but as far as...
I like the curvature of
Do you like that? Yeah, we tried to stay in trend. So, the next one, that is the main room. It was used as a bunkhouse for those that have been using it for the last whatever decades, as far as DNR or Sheriff's Department or any kind of fish and game that have been using that building. The next one is another view of that. There is a forced air heat that is in there. That's what runs on propane. Okay, so the bid openings. I don't know if you sent the actual results that are on. Okay, so the bid openings, when we bid that, the cost of the roof were, so the cost of, can we show the name and all the bids? I took all the names off except for the winning bid. So when we did the roof, it cost approximately $6,000 for the materials, and then more than that for my guys to go out there, their travel, their time. And so we're hoping to at least get that back. We got a lot more than that. So the high bid was $56,945. So, and 45 cents, yeah. And it's so hard, there are no comparables for sale. And so the best you could hope for is maybe kind of a market analysis, which that's even a rough guess, but it's interesting. There was a gentleman that was very interested in this, but ended up not putting in a bid. I was talking to him today on a totally different matter, and I said, hey, I didn't see you put in a bid. And he said, I know, I've invested in some other property and stuff. He said, you know, I figured it'd probably go for about $55,000. Taking into account the utilities that are out there, and he's familiar with land out there, and so, wow, how did you guess it so close? And so that made me feel like, you know, we did good. But
Well, there was a lot of interest at the open house.
there was,
I mean, there were all kinds of trucks and cars and people coming and going.
yeah,
So that's
yeah,
exciting.
there were quite a few. So, and those are the winning people that got the winning bid. So a Sarah Buckingham and a Matthew
Are they
Romney.
local?
I believe they're local. They were out there on the tour. Cutest little kids you've ever seen.
With the little
Mhm.
kids.
Cutest little kids
Oh,
you've
the
ever
little
seen.
boy was so excited.
Oh, he was. He thought he was already living there. So, but anyway, that's because we have a second. So, in case something falls through with the winning bid, we do have the second in line that would take that if something fell through. No, sorry. No.
I'm glad they got it.
Yeah, they are. Okay.
We'll have to bus them to Park Valley if they decide to make that their living place.
Actually, they'd have to go to Almo.
Oh, really?
So we do, Rod could talk to that. Because to get over there from Park Valley in the winter is not good.
I drove with you down, that's
Yeah.
rocky. Yeah, that.
And to go from Lynn down to Grouse Creek, you don't do that in the winter time.
You don't think the
So-
county will plow that for us?
6 days later.
So they do keep the road open from that Lynn area up to Idaho, but not down to Grouse Creek, because there's some pretty rough passes there. So it's all dirt. So anyway, okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's exciting. Okay, it's time for our monthly financial report.
Okay, this is rather simple. Basically, all the numbers have been, are reflective of the adjusted budget balances, and so we just highlighted, everything looks pretty much in line. We've highlighted the ones where they were out of, or, you know, the percentage was a little bit higher than what we anticipated, and we put some explanations there in yellow to help you understand why those were out of skew a little bit as far as the amount that we had budgeted for. So really, unless you guys got any questions, those amounts are right in line, and it's just reflective of the current percentage of our budget that we spent. Any questions?
Any questions for Cory? Okay, we've already ordered the buses, they're not back ordered
Correct.
for
We,
coming with everything.
yes, and maybe we ought to just let you guys know that the company that we did order those buses from did send a letter out saying that there was gonna be a possible increase on the original, quote. However, we decided that based off of the incremental amount that those were, that it probably wasn't wise to cancel that order and order buses from another company that would take 6 months from that to get. So, there's a little bit of an increase there, but we don't know exactly what that amount will be yet.
Okay, our next item is the board committee reports. Oh, go ahead, Rod.
Do the second half of that.
Oh, was there
real
another
quick.
part? Oh, sorry.
Just need to talk about the fraud
Yeah.
assessment real quickly.
Yeah, sorry, I missed that.
The state auditor wants us to perform a fraud assessment on ourselves every year and share it with the board. That's what that is. And as you can see, we On our fraud assessment, we scored 345 points out of 395 points, which makes us in the low risk level for fraud assessment. And it's just required that we do that. And as you can see, Steve and I need to sign that and present it to the auditors when they come in. We're supposed to let you know. Do you have any questions on that?
Actually, I did. So on the number 5, the governing board members completed entity-specific training, and things we go through, doesn't. Or do we need to
I
develop
used to think
something?
it did,
We
but
need
I
to
don't think
develop
it
something
does.
on our own?
We don't have to develop anything. The state auditor has a program, and we've actually, the audit committee members went through they loved the first module. Next time they ask us to bring popcorn and a drink.
So is that something that we should, like, because I see that website, training.auditor.utah.gov, is that where you find them? If we did that, would that raise our score?
Yeah, that would help.
So
So
I
I always thought that the MBA covered it, but apparently not for the state auditor.
But since the audit committee is doing that, that will raise our score for next year, right?
Or do all members have
Does it
to?
have to be,
all.
is it the whole board or
It says
just the?
all governing members.
With, yeah, what's supposed to happen is everybody's supposed to do that within 4 years of their appointment.
Okay, board, will you all?
So we get more popcorn and drinks.
Yeah.
We can make a party of it if you'd like, or if you'd rather do it.
So is it something that you just sit and scroll?
Like, how long is it?
Page after page?
If you guys want, I can send you that link once a month, and you go through that process, try to get it done over maybe 6-8 month period. Send you like a 20-minute.
It's similar, Nancy, to the MBA training. I mean, it's that way.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yeah. There isn't really
It
a
takes
test.
you off a little bit each month.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
I don't like that.
Why don't we count that as our reading assignment that we do each month?
It's kind of like going to water cinemas.
Kind of like those workers.
Oh, yeah, I like to put
With watching all of the ads coming up?
kind of like poking your eye out, really.
Maybe
I am
as
so excited!
So this is like a GCN training or
Yeah,
something that we
you,
have.
exactly.
Oh dear.
So maybe I could commit Dave when you can do certain portions when you complete them. Maybe he could send you a Fizz card and a pocket card for the movie.
So I second Nancy's idea that we count it as our reading assignment, so we don't do both.
Okay.
How long is the time shorted? 20 minutes, an hour?
There's a 20-minute and a 40-minute, and is there another one? Dave watched the one day, it took you most of the day.
So once a month.
So there are 3 modules a month?
No, there's 2 modules.
Oh, cool, we can do that.
So it's probably a little more than a couple hours. would you say?
Okay.
But Julie, can we discuss that for a few minutes?
Yeah, let's discuss that. So there's 3 modules. If we did one a month for 3 months, with one short, one medium, and one's
Correct. Yeah, the one module that we watched at our committee meeting is actually 40 minutes, but we only went at 40 to 20 minutes. I figured that was enough being suffering for the 3 individuals that came to that. Well, I do have to try to get reappointed every once in a while. Kill 3 of the board members right off the bat. So, the first one was 40 minutes, and we watched that, we'll watch the other 20 minutes later on. But yeah, I can send you guys those links, one a month, and we could probably have it done in 3 months.
What I was gonna say, what if we do a 20-minute a month?
Well, do you have to do a test at the end of it?
No.
Oh, you just have to
There's no
watch
test, correct.
well, we can do a 20-minute a month, and then like if we can have it done by December, could we have it done by December?
I think if we do 20 minutes a month.
Yeah. I personally like to get it all knocked out. I don't like to do 20 minutes a month, but we can set it out 20 minutes a month. I'll just watch it all and not worry about it.
Can we do that?
You can.
So, well, let's have that. How about the board? Do you feel like if that'll get us through our book study till December, and then if we can get something started in January, gives us a little bit of book break. So we might want to go back to books after, screen time. I'm always talking about my screen time with my kids during summer. No screen time. No screen time.
Make them watch it with you.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Mom of the year.
So we don't do this.
You want screen time? Good, here. Okay, does everybody okay with that? Okay? Okay, well, let's do that, and then we can learn those things and.
Maybe it's in book form and you can read it.
Yes. Audiobooks, listen to it. Oh, yeah. Does it have a playback speed that you can increase? I seriously watch all videos like 1.5 now. It's great. You can get through so much, well, not like entertainment videos, but like, instruction videos or whatever, like YouTube. That's great. It doesn't sound like chipmunks. It's just,
A little faster.
you get used to it. Your brain can listen to faster anyhow. Okay, so board committee, do we need to approve anything? No, we're just information.
No.
Okay, thanks, Rod. So we'll make, Dave, if you can do that and send that links out, and by December, if you have it completed, and he'll give us a reminder every month maybe, and we'll just go through it that way. Okay, so board committee reports. I know the audit committee met. Would you like to report anything and tell us what?
You've heard about our meeting.
Yeah. You watched the video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you want to mention, we put out an RFP for internal auditor and received zero respondents on that.
So what happens then?
Dave's gonna go out and beat the bushes a little bit and we maybe have a couple of options,
Committee.
potential options.
So,
Committee members had a few ideas, and then Dave had a few, so. Go ahead.
so were the people we recommended contacted and they said no? Or have you not done that?
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I have not done that yet.
Oh, okay, okay. So they're still on.
Yes.
They're afraid they're gonna have to watch the video. It's over back.
Okay. So we have consent items. Are there any questions on, comments on consent items?
I move we pass consent items as presented.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion by Karen to pass consent items and a second by Connie. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. What?
Connie, I know you asked the superintendent about personnel,
Yes, I did.
and I have some information that I could share with you after or now, but I have information for you. But I think I could help explain a little bit.
Okay, perfect. That's great.
And no, I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm curious.
Keith,
Well, I didn't
take
mean-
5 minutes. I don't mean to do that in the board,
I
right?
didn't see
Well-
anybody hired, it was just everybody leaving.
They're all gonna come up, but there's 81 names there, and that feels like a ton of names, and it is. But I just want to break it down a little bit so maybe you can get a flavor of the 81. 19 of them are teachers, 12 of them are ESP that are retiring, or 31 of them. 2 people are taking a leave of absence, that's a teacher. One's taking a leave of absence, that's an ESP. One's going on sabbatical. 4 of them, they ended their contract, which means either we asked them, like we non-renewed them, or, and I think that was listed as end of contract, but there were 7 others on here that in lieu of termination resigned. And we don't like to do that, but we hear, are you ever gonna do anything about a teacher that might not be meeting? And our principals do a very good job of going in, and it's, by the way, it's miserable. It's absolutely miserable. We got a good person, but maybe at a instructional level is not meeting the standard we need. There were 7 of those that were either gonna be ended or they chose to resign. So that kind of brings us down to, after all of that, basically there's 35 of those. One was because of gas, meaning I can't drive from Logan.
Oh, the Park Valley teacher.
Anyway, I don't want to get into specifics, but but I do know that one person's like, I can't drive from Logan to our county anymore, not with the price of gas. 2 were having babies, 3 were married and relocating. 2 of them, we hired them basically to bail us out this spring with some sudden resignations. And so we kept them, and then they chose to go other places. And there's some other information, and we give an exit interview. We give an exit survey and take the results for whatever those are. Those results are going to be compiled, and I would love to share those with the board as well as BEA and as administrators to say, hey, how can we, is there something that we might not be doing to help keep our folks? Most of these are elementary. Most of the changes are elementary. There's been a few more requirements that have come from the state, letters being one. I don't know how much that influences. I'm waiting for the results of the survey to justify that. I think the last couple of years have been really, really hard. I don't know how many are just leaving the business. We do have a lot of people who are like, you know what, I just have to relocate. I'm going to Layton. Oh, my husband just graduated from school. We're out of here. So there's a lot of that. I'm sure there's some grumbleness. I'm not going to ever, say that that isn't the case. But we'll have to keep monitoring it, especially in a climate that is a teacher shortage and growing. And so we'll have to be very, very cognizant of that. So I don't know if that was helpful for all of you, but there's various reasons why people resign. Some for health of their parents, health of their child, variety. So
as I looked at that, it just seemed like there was a lot of, I expected it to be heavy in the area of retirees. But when I saw so many resignations, that's why I reached out. I was like, why is this? And thank you for
I'm glad you asked the question. And we have to look at every one of those and say, what can we do better?
Right.
If we can. Some of these we can't control, it's just circumstances. But if there is a reason where we're not meeting a need for employees, I think that's where it's dependent on all of us to do our part to resolve that.
Thank you. Okay. Now suggestions for future board meetings. Any suggestions? Not have a book study before you.
I would like to be off the agenda for a little bit.
No, Keith, you're off.
The only thing that I would say that we probably need to do, and I know you already know this, but with our communities the way they are, and the growth the way it's happening in Box Elder County, I can only speak to the north end, but there's a lot of growth, and I can support what Rod has been teaching us for many years, that houses do not mean students, and that is the truth. However, as we keep our, we need to address it every meeting so that we're aware, so that we can help with our community in communicating to people. Because up my way, sometimes there's a lot of undue loss of sleep. There's a lot of people that have that make it a habit to stir negative that doesn't need to be negative. I would hope that I could be a part of motivating people towards communications that are a little bit more positive and be a little bit more supportive and work better with their, to get on those community committees and work with your school administrators, but we need to keep communications high so that we can damper that negative group of individuals that have a tendency to speak loudly. We need to speak softly and kindly
and transparently.
So that we can guide the majority into a happy place come August.
I think in that you can use Dave's numbers. persons per household, 3.06. That's a statistic, that's something that can be easily said, and it's not just a warm and fuzzy. I think that if you use the stats and use what we've got, I think that's.
Well, one of the things is I have said, look at your neighborhoods. And in my neighborhood, there's 10 houses in my neighborhood, my direct neighborhood. There's only one house in those 10 houses, there's one house. And there's 2 children on my street, 2. And so as we look at our streets, and it may be opposite of that in some streets,
Right.
but it's still true. Even though we might see a huge influx of homes being built, it doesn't mean there's going to be students, which is why it's so hard as a school district to estimate maybe. But we're doing the best we can. And we just have to trust that we really do want to do the right things.
I agree. Thank you. Going back to address one of the public comments, can we maybe have somebody tell us what tiers they can do for bullying? What, I mean,
Sure.
I don't know what that would be.
Well, yes, we definitely can tell you what our principals are doing. And this, in the negotiated agreement, you'll see that there was an agreement to every school, which most of them do have a very organized and systematic behavioral intervention plan. But, we do have, well, basically 5005, and then there's other policies that talk about bullying. And there's just, part of the problem with bullying is that we call it a zero tolerance for bullying. And we talk a lot about zero tolerance for bullying. Well, the only way you can truly have a zero tolerance for bullying is if somebody bullies, then we would have to kill them. And that's obviously not going to work. And so what we do is as the principals do this, our counselors help, our vice principals, when we find out there's bullying, we take the child in, we call parents, we do everything we can at the lowest level that we can to try to hopefully change their behavior. Then if they continue bullying, we ratchet that up and slowly, make it more restrictive as time goes on. And sometimes, quite often, the sad part of it is the only way we can continue to get rid of the bullying is the person being bullied has to tell us on a continual basis, and that's hard to do because we don't always know sometimes if bullying stops or if it continues. And quite often, when we hear about bullying, they say we checked here, we called the teacher, we called that person, we called that person. And in fact, when we talk to the principal, I've never heard from that. I've never heard from that parent. We'll hear that quite often. And so it's really one of the most, in my 40-year career in education, and especially in my 30-year administrative career, bullying is really the most, I don't know, heinous thing that we have going on. And quite frankly, I believe this. This is Steve Carlson. Bullying is not nearly as bad as it was when we were all younger. It's just now that it's much more, we talk about it a whole lot more. If you honestly think back to some of the things that you saw and witnessed, all of us, it was much worse then. It's just now that we're more aware of it, we're more aware of the facts, and there is social media that adds a whole new layer to this thing that is just so hard to deal with because so much of the bullying that occurs in social media occurs after 3 o'clock. And there's really, it does always drain over into the school, but not always, it's not something, if somebody sends something on social media at 5 o'clock at night, we can't punish the kid the next day. And so we do a lot, but I do think a nice explanation of exactly what we do, between how it evolves from elementary on up to secondary, I think would be, and another thing is what is bullying? Too often we hear, well, my kid was bullied. Well, they got punched that day. And that isn't bullying, that's an assault. And so too often bullying is misrepresented. But I think that's a really good thing to have a good talk about. And probably do a public campaign about it and really, because it is bad, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of things, and I'm just going to say this, and this isn't very popular, but there's a term called a provocative victim. And a lot of times a victim of bullying is somebody that actually provoked something in the first place, and then they run and scream and holler. And that, quite often, I'm not gonna lie to you, we find out that it ends up being a provocative victim that really maybe is getting bullied, but it's for a reason. And that sounds harsh, but quite often it is the case when we find that, so.
This little girl tonight would not fall.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. So, I'm gonna look into that. I don't know for sure what the whole story is. I've never heard this lady yet. Yeah, so, okay.
So we know which school she's from?
I think I know the intermediate school, and I think I figured out the school, so, but I can find that out.
Should we-
Yes,
I don't know that the agenda is full for July, but could that be something we could have a little discussion on for July, and maybe it's full.
In the work session, I think, yeah, we can do this.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it would take too long to just walk through and say, this is what the steps are, things like that. But yes.
And it was interesting when you said, if they punch them, that's
an assault.
So different things that it's broken out into.
Yeah, bullying really, talks about leverage is a child, child or an adult that has, a higher standing, is a sixth grader picking on a fifth grader? Is a boy picking on a girl? In the case of workplace bullying, if they're both the same level of employees, it's harder to prove bullying. And so, there's just a lot of things, and it's continuous, it's ongoing, and so the term bullying is really, I believe, misused in our society today. It happens, and it's happening way too much. But a lot of times, some kid gets punched, like I said, during school, and, oh, my kid's getting bullied. Actually, it was that one incident, so they really weren't bullied, they were punched, and if you call the police, that's an assault. So we'll talk about that definition, which is in our policies.
Yeah, and I think that might be something, I don't know how you do it, because I think, like you said, that term bullying is, like, my kids use it, you're bullying me, I'm like, I'm your mother, but it's not bullying. Yeah, but they hear these things a lot, like there's, like, I'm telling you to do your jobs, that's not like but I think that we need to be aware of what is and what is not and what is happening. And so I think that, like you said, I think it's good to be, and kids are hearing it and we're using these things and so sometimes the kids that really are, maybe we're missing because of like what we call over whatever, so, but I think that's something that we can discuss. And then just keep in mind for our July meeting, the majority of it is going to be capital plans and outlay, that's the word.
And we're gonna start at 1, and we were hopeful that you'd be able to have lunch prior, and then we'll have dinner at 5:30, so treats, drinks during the day.
So come with your thinking caps on.
With that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Can I say one thing first?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Wade.
No, I'm sorry, this is quick. And there were a lot of letters to sign, please make sure you sign them all. The one to Jeff Rollins, the information I received is not totally correct, so I'm gonna rewrite that one, and we're gonna sign that one next month. Okay? So we didn't get that one, but the others, please make sure you sign them freely.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Karen made a motion to adjourn. Everybody's, Tiffany seconds, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Meeting adjourned, thank you for being here.